voice of the continent. Turn it up, turn it up. African sports guy, he's on the ball. African sports guy, he stands so tall. From the pitch to the court, he's got the vibe. African sports guy, keeping it alive. African sports guy, he's on the ball. African sports guy, he stands so tall.
Hello. Welcome to African Sports Guy. I think this is like episode 12 or 13 or something like that. Welcome to African Sports Guy, where we bring you the African perspective on all that is happening in the world of sports and life in general, man. Life in general. How are you doing, Pari? My partner in crime, so looking super cool there. Let me just adjust the screen
old.
a bit.
I'm hiding myself. I'm getting old.
I mean, those shades, bro. The shades and the relaxed matter. It looks good on you, man. Looks good on you. Look good
Dad
on you,
life,
man.
all right. Dad life. Waking up earlier than you want.
Okay. How's the things? How's the things going, bro?
Good.
How
man,
your Mets?
good,
I always
man.
ask about your Mets, bro. How your Mets doing, bro?
The Mets
Is there any
finally
recovery?
Yeah. They're slowly winning. They won yesterday. They scored 10 runs in extra innings, which is quite a lot. So they played well, at least against the Nationals. So there's a chance we won't be last soon. We're slowly coming up. We won't be at the top, but if we're not at the bottom, there's a chance that next year,
So is there any hope? Like, so this year's dead. It's done for. There's no
I
like
mean, we're
late surge
11,
or. But
unless we
I
get
thought
the
it was just the
wild. I
beginning of
mean,
the season, though, right?
it's early, but we're 11 games behind the number one team in our division. And that means they have to lose 11 games and we have to win 11 games. And they're not losing games. So the chances of us winning our division at this point, nigh on impossible. The chances of us getting to the playoffs, maybe if we get healthy at the right time. But right now, we just need to keep stacking up wins and go from there. Step one.
Okay.
Another topic that's probably won't talk about too much because I don't have Tats here to help with the golf, but Mankoro to Aaron Rai. He's of Indian descent. He won the PGA Championship. And his connection to us is that his mother is Kenyan. She immigrated to England when she was a teenager. So, his Kenyan roots helped him win the PGA Championship. I think he's one of the few Asian of Asian descent to win, such a high trophy. First Englishman to win since 1918, the PGA Championship. So, I mean, it's kudos to him.
million.
He played smart. Yeah, the money's it's
20
good, but
mil, bro. Hey, a cook at 20 million in there.
I know. He's
Wow.
he's no longer playing the next tournament. I think he's taking a break. But with 20 mil, you can take a break. You're allowed to take a break.
You take a break, bro. You take a break. So the 20 mil, is it for everybody, or is it just his winning? Because it's 20 mil plus. So does it mean that it's like
no. It's broken down. If the person 20 mil, he'll get. There's a breakdown. Usually, there's a breakdown of what they get. But whereas if you played live golf, the purses alone, each player would get like 20K, 20 mil. First place.
Yeah, that's why
20,
they broke.
Yeah, they were squandering money.
That's why they broke.
Good for Aaron Wright to do it for England, do it for the Indian Brits out there, African Indians out there. Good.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think a lot of people don't realize that in Africa we have a huge Indian population, right? Massive. South Africa alone, there's about 6 million in South Africa. Zimbabwe is sort of the eastern area around Mutare. Loads and loads of Indian guys there.
The mayor of New York, Mamdani, he grew up in Kenya. You know what I mean? Like, he's Kenyan. Sorry, not Kenyan. Uganda. His father was so East Africa. They have a lot of Kenya, Uganda. There's a lot of even chapati. Growing up, I'd eat chapati, and I didn't know these things were Indian. For me, it was my auntie would make them from Uganda, and little did I know it was all Indian.
Dude, I love Indian food, bro. Love Indian food.
Fire.
For the longest time, I was really aiming to marry an Indian woman because I was like, drank that food, bro. Birthday. That's so racist, by the way. It doesn't mean let's
I'm
say
not
that she's
saying.
going to
Yeah,
be able to cook
I'm being
Indian food.
quiet. I'm being quiet. I'm being quiet.
But though when I used to live in England, I had a one of my very very close friends. She was Sri Lankan, right? And
Mhm.
her dad, whenever dad came to, like it was literally the best thing that ever happened. Like the dad, like because I was like church leadership in England and everything, and so I'd always give him like the best place to sit and everything. And he was always chuffed, like I'm giving him respect, but it was just for the doof, bro. It was for the food. The guy
Yeah,
used to
you
be.
was.
I'm only playing, but he was a great. Like that guy's food was amazing. Yo,
Mm.
buddy, dude. Every time he was coming, I was like so looking forward to it. And whenever she used to go home, I always used to tell her, dude, if you don't come back with a lunchbox with some of your dad's cooking, don't come back because we used to stay in the same place.
Oh, really? One of
Same
my
place. Yeah.
favorite
So
players, cricket players, is Sri Lankan. Jaminda Vas. Jaminda.
Jamina Vas,
Yeah, I'd love to go
my
to
favorite
Colombo at
player,
some point.
my
Why
favorite
not?
player is Sri Lankan as well. Is
Who's that?
Kuma Sangakkara.
Oh yeah, Kumar. Hey, he
I
could
just
talk
thought
back, huh?
the way he batted, like his batting encapsulated the word beauty. I mean, that was
Mm.
just, he was so elegant, so
Yeah,
composed, right? It was just, you could tell this guy was just a genius, like he was cerebral, but he was a bit
yeah.
ruthless because he was the wicketkeeper and some of the stuff, man. Like when you started
Sledging,
hearing
right?
what he would say behind
I
the
know.
sledging, it was, because his sledging was bad because his sledging wasn't like, hey, you stink or whatever. Oh, if your mama,
Yeah, yeah.
right? His sledging was like, Jacques Carlos, man, all the pressure on you, bruv. Yeah, all the pressure of the nation on you. Why did they make you captain? They made Sean Pollard captain. Why did they make you captain? They don't trust you. Aren't you meant to be the best player ever? And he'd be like that cerebral stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like that
Yeah.
mental stuff. And
It
I
would be
think
funny when
one thing I like
you'd funny when you'd hear the sledging him against the Australians, because Australians are notorious for their
yeah,
sledging, and then
yeah,
you'd
yeah,
hear it coming with the intellectual stuff, and you're like, these Australians are kind of shook, like, what do we say
yeah,
now?
yeah, yeah. But cricket is intense, man. I mean,
Cricket is deadly.
cricket for me is the ultimate sport when it comes to pressure, right? Handling pressure. What? Because at that level, at the top level, almost
Yeah,
every player can play almost every shot in the book, right?
yeah,
Of course, it's to certain degrees. Some of them are better on the outside, some of them are better on the leg, some of them are better with the ball, play the ball short. Like people from like sort of the Western Hemisphere, they got faster wickets, so they're better in
yeah,
terms of like cross batting, the pull
yeah,
shot, the cut shot, they're better at that. Whereas in India, the wickets are a bit slower, so the Indian players are better with their wrists and stuff like that.
yeah,
England, Australia, they're more form-fitting players, especially England, because the ball moves around a lot. So you have to have proper form in terms of your
yeah,
driving and stuff like that. So of course, there's different variants depending on which region you are, right? But most players can play most of the shots, right? Because we were taught
yeah,
all the same thing in primary schools, in high school. But it's how do you handle the pressure? And so for me, when I look at cricket, the closest sport I think to cricket is a main sport, like big sport, is basketball. It really is. It's basketball, right? Because basketball, almost, if you see these guys playing without any pressure, they can make threes with their
yeah,
eyes closed. They can do all sorts of things, right? All these NBA guys. If you get to the NBA, you're an excellent basketball player. But now, like, look at the last game, right? The Cavs versus Detroit. Of course, the Cavs won, right?
yeah.
But James Harden again, game 7, game 6, just a ghost Mdara. Just wet the bed, right? Like that guy, like I'm so glad that Cleveland have got Donovan Mitchell in that team, right? Mobley as well was excellent,
Yeah.
right? Donovan Mitchell, Mobley, just absolute. I'm thinking the other guy, the third guy. It's Mobley, Mitchell, and forget his name. But those three absolutely. Those are like the foundation of Cleveland going forward, right?
Yeah.
And so those three were excellent once again, right? Of course, they did drop the ball a bit in game 6. I think they were a bit relaxed. But game 7, they were defensively and just really they out-muscled, they out-toughed Detroit. But again, James Harden, where are you, bruv? What this guy is, dude, he chokes. He's such a choker. And he'd be a terrible cricket player because under pressure, bruv, you'd be destroyed, bruh. You'd be
Yeah.
destroyed. They just go after him. Did you watch that game? Did you watch
I watched
the Detroit?
I watched like start of the third quarter, but by then it was over. I knew it was kind
Mm,
of a wrap. But I mean, Donovan Mitchell he's carrying that team on his shoulders. You know what I'm
mm.
saying? Like without Donovan Mitchell playing and whatever, you can't rely. Obviously, on Harden is, maybe you'll get a fluky three here and there, but he's not what he was. He can't take over games. Like he doesn't have it. It's Donovan Mitchell's team going into the game today. The Knicks versus the Cavs. Like that's going to be, can Donovan Mitchell play? And he's from New York, so Donovan Mitchell's a New Yorker. He's a Nets fan, actually. So it's going to be interesting to see him kind of playing in New York, and like does he take the crown as the best New York player? Does Brunson come and say, no, this is my town now? There's a little bit of a subtext there, which is kind of fun.
Yeah,
Um,
the story between the two is pretty interesting, right? Because the Knicks originally wanted Donovan Mitchell, right? That's who
yeah,
they wanted originally, right? And then they ended up sort of like the sub, like the what you call it, the consolation prize
yeah,
was Jalen Brunson, right? But arguably, Jalen Brunson has had a better career in New York than Donovan Mitchell has had in Cleveland, right? But they're not that far apart. So
well, I mean, but I
it's
mean,
kind of like who would you take? You're a New Yorker. Who would
I
you
mean,
take
I,
between
I
the two?
take, well, I'm biased because Donovan Mitchell, when he played for the Jazz, he showed up to the games in his, David Wright Mets jersey. So, I mean, to me, he's a New York guy who was repping his team, even though he was in another town. I mean, like Brunson has proven that he deserves the spot. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
think if, the Jazz and the Cavs haven't been what if they built around Donovan, if it's either franchise built around one or the other, I think Donovan would be a better fit to build around than Brunson. But Bryson is showing that like he's a class player regardless of, like, you know what I mean? Like he can do it with, here's the thing, he needs help. They all need help. Like that's the thing. Brunson, they all need support. Donovan needs support. In terms of their playing style, I like Donovan Mitchell's better. In terms of uh kind of game breaker and like kind of just speed, right? Like Brunson just has an extra step, his extra quickness. He's not that loud of a star, he's a bit of humble, you know what I mean? So I do respect him. Um, but the New York in me is like, I wanted the New York guy to play New York, you know what I mean? Like I'd like him to do that. But to be honest, Brunson is showing, and this is the kind of the subtext with this series coming up. It's like, does Brunson dominate and say, "Listen, I'm not going to be loud, but I'm going to say this is my town. Like I know you thought you were this. I know this is your hometown. I'm going to go down in history as being the Knicks guy. You're going to go down as being the guy who should have come to the Knicks, who should have played for his home team." Or Mitchell comes and says, "You know what, boy? I own this town. I'm going to play up because it's in front of my city, my fans. This is my favorite team. I'm going to show them what they're missing." So there's some good subtext to that one.
yeah, that's gonna be a good matchup, like Donovan Mitchell versus Jalen Brunson. But I don't. I give the edge to Jalen Brunson, man. I look. I'm not. As I said, I'm not
Here's
biased at all.
here's
Whoever wins that series, I don't really care. But I'd say that I think that unfortunately the New York Knicks will allow Jalen Brunson to shine more, right, than the Cavs will allow defensively, because I think that the Cavs will not be able to stop the Knicks defensively because they're not a good
yeah,
defensive team, especially with James Harden on that team. They're not going to be good
yeah,
defensively, and I think the Knicks are better defensively, right? So it's going to come down to a matchup of who can outscore the other. And I think that with Cat, with Bridges, with is it Obinobi? What's it?
I don't know how to
Obinobi?
say it, but I think he's
Yeah,
healthy. Obanobi.
yeah, I'm sorry. We always talk about butchering names there. And then Jalen Brunson. I think they just got too much firepower for the
Yeah.
Cavs. Even if James Harden was gonna show up, which I think he won't. I think he wilt as usual. Can you just talk about that a bit? Why do you think James Harden is so poor in playoffs, in key matches in playoffs? Because even when he was at Houston, right, he was immense during the season. I mean, there was a time when he was averaging like 40 points,
Yeah.
averaging 40 points, right? But when it comes to the playoffs, bro, he just wilted, bro.
I mean,
Can
he's
you talk a bit like
he.
why? Why do you think he's like that for him?
Well, I think it's the hunger to be. I think it's the hunger to. I think he doesn't have the. I think certain people. a lot of people, a lot of the players turn up, right? They go to the next level during the playoffs, right? They're there and they're decent during the season, and then they get to the playoffs and they're like, no, this means more than what all the other games meant, right? And I'm going to go level. I'm going to level up. It feels to me like Harden like kind of he shows his best during the middle of the season or whatever, like shines, does all this stuff, comes to the playoffs. So now everybody else is leveling up, but he's kind of at that level. And I think it exposes his decision making, mainly his decision making, you know what I mean? Because I think that's a big difference between someone who you can have all the shots, like you said, they have all the shots, they can do this all in practice. If you're not making the right choices, if you're not playing defense, because that's the thing, everybody plays up. And what's
He doesn't play defense at all.
underrated part of the playoffs is defense. Wemby said this recently. He's like, yeah, scoring title is one thing, but like, half the other half is the defense. Can you defend? And if you defend, right, you're gonna do well. It's gonna open up the offense, right? Play well defensively to open up the offense. We all know Harden does not defend. We all know, everybody's known that, right? But the problem is, like, if everybody else on the other team is like, right, we're gonna step up our game defensively, right? This is what we're talking about. And then what does he do? You know what I mean? He doesn't have a place to go. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just it's at this point it's not maturity. I think it's just
because it's old. 36.
I think it's some people have like athletic intellect. There's different. I like this theory of having different intellect. Like some people are spatially intelligent, some people are musically intelligent, some people are athletically intelligent. I think there's a buffer in his athletic intelligence. Not to say that he's not intelligent as a person. I just think he gets to a plateau where he doesn't know how to adapt, and other people adapt around him, and he just stays in that vein. And I don't think it works for him long term. And it's proven. If they don't make it out of this round, I'm sure a big part of it will be like him not showing up either defensively, but probably offensively. And I think they go hand in hand. When you're playing good defensive ball, it leads to. A lot of time it leads to good offense, you know what I mean? Because your team is hyped. Your team is building off this. I mean, we'll talk about the game yesterday with like the Western Conference. That game, my God, talking about defense, talking about pressure. Wemby was making threes from the.
I saw that three. That three was sick.
My goodness,
that three was sick.
I saw it while it was happening. The crowd was hyped. The crowd was hyped. They just scored 2 in a row. OKC. He posts up from the middle of nowhere, and he sinks it. I'm telling you, the crowd immediately
Steph Curry like
inflated. It's insane. Like, but he's 7 foot something. Wemby showed up, man. Wemby was like, listen, 41 points, 24 blocks. I mean, talking about defensive and offensive, it's probably one of the best games you see in the playoffs.
Bro,
ever.
24 rebounds. Like, that 24. Is just insane, bro.
The blocks at the end, I mean, like, he was just, like, dominant. 41 points after getting 24 boards. The clutch blocks, you know what I mean, defensively.
Even at a steal. He had a steal?
Yeah.
3 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks. Bro, he's sick, bro.
Is like some plays, man. Wow.
Yeah, I think he could be a GOAT. Like, he could be in the GOAT conversation, because I think LeBron and I think what Magic Johnson and the other guys always lacked was that, unlike Jordan, the defensive side of the ball was very lacking for them, right? LeBron defended when he wanted to, when he felt like it, right? I think he had the capability, and he has the capability of being a good defender. But I mean, Michael Jordan, like, he won the Defensive Player of the Year how many seasons? Like 6 or 7 times or something like that, right? Yeah. He was just, and I think for me, like, here's the question that I always have, like, because I love about like what we're doing now is we can talk about these things, right? As a layman, as a normal person, right? You always feel like, if it was me being paid $250,000, I could make that shot. Like, if that was like my job, right? Yeah. I could like why like with James Harden, like, this is the thing, like, James Harden, or like when I'm watching Bora, for instance, one of the guys I like, I'm always shouting. If you see me watching Bora, and if you see the live my watch-alongs, right? You see me shouting at Luke Shaw all the time. Like, he's always walking, right? Like, just like walking. Or like Ahmad as well. Ahmad Diallo for Manchester United tends to walk as well. Same thing with James Harden. It seems like, and I'm just thinking to myself, if I'm being paid, like for England, like Luke Shaw probably gets like 120, 150,000 pounds a week, right? Why aren't you running your, why aren't you running your socks off, right? James Harden, why isn't he at least, because Steph Curry is a terrible defender as well, but the difference between Steph Curry is he puts in effort, right? And so when you're putting in effort, it does something. It does actually do something. It's like, at least you're covering it to a certain extent. It's not just an easy walk through, right? You're not just being certain like a burden. Of course, Steph Curry, he's not as tall as the other players. He's not as big, and so he's a defensive liability in some aspects. But he does put in a lot of effort. He runs, he covers, he puts the players under pressure, right? Although he doesn't get the results, but he does. But James doesn't even do any of that, though. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, one thing I've always wondered is that if you're getting paid $250,000 like what James Harden is on, right, or something along those lines, or like you're being paid like 150,000 pounds a week, like when I Luke Shaw and like Ahmad is probably on like 90,000, 80,000 pounds a week, something like that. Why are you walking? Why are you ever walking? Why is effort ever a question that should be asked about you? Why are there players like Wemby, who's like an absolute superstar, or LeBron James, for instance, who's like 41, 42, right? Why is effort never a question for those guys who are like at the top? Effort is never a question for Ronaldo.
I think I have an answer.
Ever. Like, why? Why are you Ahmad Diallo? Why are you Luke Shaw? Why are you James Harden? Or Luka Doncic, for another guy who just doesn't give a damn about defending. Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, these players. Like, why is it effort is a question for you, right? So because as a normal, So as a normie, we always think that why would I would definitely die on that battlefield, bro.
Well, I think if you look at the greats, right? You look at Kobe, you look at Jordan, right? LeBron came in that conversation. What they have that you can see, in my opinion, is they have internal motivation, right? They're motivated from inside. Now, if you're an internally motivated player, Ronaldo, these players who, like, it doesn't matter if you're practicing, it doesn't matter if it's the real game, it doesn't matter if it's against, under 17s, it does not matter. You are playing at your top level. It's because you have internal motivation. And then we look at it as laymen and be like, these people are getting 15,000 or whatever thousand a week or whatever. They should be, Luke Shaw should be playing up, Ahmad should be playing up. If you come to a sport externally motivated, right, you're never going to you're always going to be wanting more. Well, if they paid me this much, then I'd run. Well, if they paid me this, because the goalposts are always moving. You come out and you're like, I'll do it for this much. Then you get complacent. No, man. For this much work, I need to get X amount of money. And for me, that's a hard external motivation versus internal motivation. If you're internally motivated, and if you're young or your kids are into sports or whatever, for me, the best form of motivation is wanting to do it from an internal drive. Because money will always be there. Money will always come. Money will always go. The people who go and do the practice, Kobe would go, and after games where they lost, he'd go and he'd practice. He had his system. When they won, it didn't matter. He'd be in the gym the next morning doing his drills because he had such great internal motivation, right? Driven from the inside. And that's the difference between, you're going to have, like Iverson. Iverson was an amazing player, right? An amazing basketball player, right? He just had all the gifts, but you could question his motivation, because he won't be in the same conversation as Jordan. He won't be in the same conversation as Kobe, because his whole skit about practice. We're talking about practice, not a game. We're talking about practice. That to me is showing that, like, he didn't take practice as like.
He also didn't defend at all.
Right. So I think that's the thing, is like not just athletes, not just sport, but anything in life. There are two types of motivation, right? Internal, like intrinsic, and external, extrinsic motivation. And the one that tend to sustain more and tend to have the most are the ones who have intrinsic motivation. They're motivated from something inside themselves. So we can look at the Luke Shaws, the Ahmads, all these things. That's how you can tell if a player is or isn't going to be something. because you can see that they have natural skill. But it's like, what makes a difference between them and Sachin Tendulkar, right? Sachin was internally motivated, right? And you can play for 40
Virat
years doing
Kohli.
this thing. Virat Kohli, right? Internal, like
So
annoying
motivated,
to an
bro.
annoying level, right? An annoying. You look at him.
Yeah,
and you're like, this guy
Kohli's
is
to an
so
annoying level
annoying.
where he just
Oh
wants
my
to
God.
win, bro. Yeah.
Right? But you can tell this guy is competitive, no matter what the price, no matter. There's no. Let's just play around. Apana just play around. If we're playing, we're playing, and I'm bringing it every time I go out. And I think that's when we look at our players on our teams. You know, Leeds, right? For us, that's Ampadu, right? Who apparently there's some rumors that Manchester United are trying to look into getting Ampadu or something like that. Some rumor mills. First of all, he's not going to go to Manchester United. Firstly, secondly,
Why
yes,
wouldn't
he'd be
he?
good for your team. He would not want to
Why
because he's a
wouldn't he?
Leeds guy. He's a Leeds captain.
He's from
Leeds
Wales. He's
Leeds
Welsh.
captains do
He's
not go
from
to Manchester
Wales.
United.
We have
Simba.
been buying Leeds players, bro.
Oh
We
my
buy
gosh.
these players for fun. We buy these players for fun, bro.
Captains do not go to Manchester United. End of story.
Rio,
Rio was not a
Cantona.
Cantona was yes our best player, but that's bygone days.
Alan Smith.
You see this marching on together. He was not a captain. Ampadu is our intrinsic motivated player, right? And he is now there's a new contract. He's gonna get a new contract. He's gonna stay. But I saw this rumor mill and I wanted to laugh. I'm like,
don't laugh, buddy.
What?
Don't laugh.
What?
Don't laugh.
Manchester United? Ampadu? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's a bad team. I'm saying it'll never happen. You're talking about Barcelona and Real. Like, where do Pep go? Does Pep go to Real Madrid? Absolutely not. He can't. Right? He cannot. Right?
But it's a completely different situation, bro.
Absolutely not, Simba. It's the same. It's the same thing. A Leeds captain will not go to Manchester United. Now, would he be a good fit for you guys? Yes, he'd be a great defensive midfielder for most teams. Like, he's basically an additional center back, you know, for most teams. I mean, I think it's an interesting rumor. I think it's a bit of clickbait personally, because right next to that, there's a story about him getting like Leeds trying to make a deal ASAP to like basically lock him in. But again, that's someone who has intrinsic motivation. Look at Bruno Fernandes. Right?
I'd rather have Tanaka.
Bruno Fernandes. Tanaka is leaving, but to be honest, Tanaka defensively is not. I've watched these guys play like all season long. If you're picking one, you're taking Ampadu. You're taking Ampadu.
Yeah, I take your word for it.
Tanaka. Yeah. You're talking about Stark, the midfielder.
Yeah, Stark. Yeah.
Yeah, attacking. Yeah, I think he's a good holding. I think you take Wharton, Anderson, like he's in that realm, and I think they'd go over him. But I think he's a solid, like a good manager who can develop him and all that kind of stuff. I think Stark would be.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if someone tries to snipe him from Leeds. You know, like he's caught the attention of a lot of people with the Shindig especially. But again, like Bruno Fernandes, internal motivation, right? Like you can just tell the guy is internally motivated, right? Then you look up people around him. And that's, I think, is one of the Achilles heels for, which is where Carrick is going to come in and it's going to be like, okay, how do I invigorate a squad of people who are not immensely internally motivated? Because Bruno Fernandes, he's been your best player for a while, but in many ways, he's been your only player for the past...
For a very, very long time.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's been him. It's been Bruno. When he plays, nothing is happening. You know what I mean? There's no one else on the pitch where you're like, you know what? They have the fire, they have the internal motivation. Like Bruno. I don't like Bruno Fernandes, you know, because he's good, but I also know that like he's always a threat. He's a bit of a whiner for my liking, but I cannot dispute that.
Look, he's a whinger. Nobody's perfect. He's a whinger.
I cannot deny he has internal motivation. He has a touch. Like he's there. Like he's your star player. So. Like looking forward, like how do you, because this is the thing. This is what separates the Peps, the Artetas, the Klopps, even the Marescas from other people. How do you take people who are the Luke Shaws, the Amadous, and how do you, there's a TV show in America called Scared Straight, where you take these high school kids to prison and they go in there and they,
I watched that show once. It was just too cringe for me, bro. It was too cringe for me, bro.
But that's the thing. It's like, how do you?
I think kids really scared by that. I think really scared by that, though.
I mean, here's the thing: you're going into it with your preconceived ideas of stories and like your safety in your life. You know what I mean? Some of these kids are like soft going into these places.
There's a
We
Zim,
can't speak.
there's a Zim version, huh?
Ah, is it any
But it's
good?
not skate straight. They take them to like, but it's on YouTube. But they take them to like my farms, and
Yeah.
this lady, and she disciplines them like sort of training and stuff, and like guys that are addicted to drugs and stuff like that. And so
Oh
take them
yeah,
to like
yeah,
this farm, and then
yeah,
she's like this camp, so like a camp sort of thing, and
yeah.
she does like a training camp thing.
I mean,
Look,
to
we
be
don't
honest,
have any data like whether it works
I've
or
seen
not,
those
but that
things
would work or
working.
works or not.
I know of people who've been to rehab, and they basically go to. It's basically like boarding school where you go into this thing. You have meetings once in a while. You hit the gym. You do the chores. Like order. And I think it is a great way to get people out of the system. Does it have long lasting effect? Is the question. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I guess
So
that's where that motivation thing comes into it, whether you
right.
can translate that to make it now an internal thing, or maybe even, but here's the question the thing that I'm really getting at is that I understand what you're saying, right? Difference between intrinsic and sort of external factors with money or fame or what all the kind of thing, right? But I guess I'm kind of concentrating on that part, the external thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I've always had this conversation with loads and loads of people. This thing, Yaguti, is £250,000 not enough to get you
But
to run?
it's here's the thing: two hundred fifty
How is
thousand
that not
pounds
enough to
is
get you
not
to run?
this because it's not the same amount to you and me. To you and
Yeah,
me, £250,000 is $100, and it'd be like for $100, you want me to because I think it's all comparative, right?
yeah,
It's all based on what
yeah.
what what
I
money
think
is. So
it's silly.
we can always say, you're being lazy. Hey, all this money for them, it's like, bro, this isn't enough money to make me do this. It's
Yeah, I
just
think it's
not.
you're correct. You're correct. I guess for us sitting here, because we've always wanted, like I don't know about you, but I've always wanted to be a professional sports person. I mean, who wouldn't want to be? Do my slides at Old Trafford, yeah, that kind of thing. And so I guess when you look on it from a layman's point of view, you're always saying, it's a bit silly.
I mean,
So okay,
in fairness,
so
the closest I would have got to is cricket because I had no chance being a goalkeeper. But my dreams were cricket. But yeah, playing at the Gabba or like Lords, getting a double century. Woo, if I could
yeah,
only
that'd be
bat.
wonderful. But cricketers normally are not. I don't think I think maybe bowlers, but most of the time, if you don't practice, you're done for, bro.
Yeah,
You're done
yeah,
for in cricket. Like it's ruthless that way. You will not succeed, bro. If you're not
yeah.
if you're not like you have to. There's a minimum level of effort. So you don't really see it that often in cricket. Like I saw it in Zim cricket, right? And I know maybe I'm snitching on some people here, but I won't mention names. But in Zim cricket, right? I saw it, and
Mm.
I saw the standards slipping. Because I think when you and I started playing when we started playing professional cricket, right?
We did.
We
Yeah,
were on the cusp of like the older generation, so the Andy Flowers, the Grant
yeah,
Flowers, the Craig Wishards, Andy
yeah,
Blignot, Heat Streak. Andy Blignot was sort
yeah.
of like a transition. Tatenda Taibu, them guys, right? Between Tatenda Taibu, Masakadza, Ululeke Nkala. So we were like in the middle between those two, sort of like transitioning from the old boys to the new boys, right? And I won't mention names, but I mean, like, I used to, like, on a Friday, maybe you go out, and I'd see the guys got a match on Sunday, and I'd be like out in Bauer in the black, right? I'll be in the black, and these ones are doping it up, bro, right? They're drinking, and you're like, dude, you got
Mm.
a match on Sunday. You got a match on Sunday, right? And because you make your debut, you score 100 against West Indies. I mean, I'm probably giving it
Mm.
away now, but you score 100 against West Indies. You're looking great. I remember my dad literally called me and said, "Yo, have you seen that guy? Have you seen that guy?" My dad he doesn't watch cricket that much, but that guy was amazing. His debut,
Yeah.
a beautiful 100, right? And his
Mm.
form was just okay. But cricket is like, okay, fine. You've done that. Like, what are you gonna do now? Because now people got you on film. They can study
Yeah.
you. They know what's coming up, right? And to be fair, West Indies are not the most studious team, right? But when you're going against the Englands, the South Africans, the Australians, the New Zealands, the Indias, they literally study everything you do. Like they study your weaknesses. And then from there it was just downhill. Like little crevices of good form here and there, but mostly
Yeah.
downhill. The guy just got fatter and fatter and fatter. It
I
just,
mean,
you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'll be out. And you see this guy in the bower. I'll be
yeah.
looking at him like, dude, what are you doing here? Like,
So
what are you?
I think,
And it'd be not him, but it'd be also lots of his other friends. Like, what are the guys doing here?
yeah. But I think that's where uh, mentorship comes into play. I think creating an environment. I've talked about this with my brother. I've talked about this with people. You know, half of your success comes from your environment, right? If you're in an
Yeah.
environment that nurtures this thing, right? Nurtures discipline, like just like you're talking this woman and her pras, achirima, digging all this stuff. What you saying, my brothers?
What's
Um,
up?
what's up? What's up? What's up? Um, if you don't, and this is why um, good coaches, good clubs, right? It's more than just the tactics. It's more than just the X's and O's, right? Like when Sir Alex
Yeah.
Ferguson was there, he'd hired, there's a guy who he'd hired for sleep, right? He literally hired a guy to fix the sleeping systems of his players because
Yeah. Yeah.
every part of every part of their lives he was responsible for. You know what I'm saying? To get the best out of them, he had to mentor them. So you get somebody on the staff that's responsible for X. You get someone on the staff that's responsible for Y. And these big clubs do this, right? These big clubs have done this for generations. You know what I mean? Ideally, you do this young, right? You find yourself a coach, you find yourself a teacher, you find yourself a mentor, and you say, right, I'm driving you across town to go and coach with so and so because they understand how to motivate you intrinsically. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of the X factor when we talk about these managers and these coaches. Do you have something within you to see past the people's ability on the pitch, and you
Yeah.
see where they need to be challenged and how to do it?
Yeah.
Because I think that
Yeah.
is, and it's you can't touch it, but it's part and parcel of taking somebody who could have been amazing and making them amazing versus taking someone who like
Just
like
dying
Pep,
in potential.
right? Pep has, you
Dying in the
give him the
pool of
same team,
potential.
yeah, but you
Yeah.
give him those guys and he's going to pull potential out of every pore of those people because of these untenable things, which is a skill. It's a skill,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. No, look, I know I agree with you. So I think we're not for motivation, but I think it is an interesting thing, especially when it comes to James Harden. But the big news of the day, Fadi, the big news of the day, or not of the day, but it's like the worst kept secret, literally the worst kept secret in world sports is that Pep Guardiola is going to be stepping down at the end of this season. He's going to be stepping down. I mean, the end of the season it's just 2 games away, so it's not like
Yeah.
it's not it's a big deal, but everybody knew, right? And so for me, there's a sinister side and there's a positive side. So I'll let you go first in that, right? So he's stepping down, and then Enzo Maresca is going to be taking over, right? You know Enzo Maresca very well from his time in the championship, and
Mhm.
someone that you know very well. You followed him a bit. So Enzo Maresca is going to be following on. I think he signed a 6-year contract or something, right? Quite a long-term contract.
Mhm.
And again, another very very bad secret, and why would you know? Because in Maresca, one of the reasons he got fired was literally because he was negotiating a contract with Man City. So that's one of the reasons. I think the other reasons was because he was complaining about the club and what they were doing and stuff.
Yeah.
So we've known that Maresca is going to be the next manager for the longest time, right? For the longest time, even when he was in the champ, even when he was still coaching Leicester, we knew that he was being lined up for Man City because that's what great clubs do, right? Great clubs, they plan 10, 5, 6, 7, 8 years in advance, right?
Mhm.
And Man City for the past 10 years have been a great club. And so, Guardiola is leaving at the end of the season. What are your thoughts initially? What are your initial thoughts on Guardiola leaving?
So I am an ad what is it,
Advocate.
No, I am an ardent viewer of African
Okay.
Sports Guy. And I had the privilege of watching your last live where you basically broke this down in detail. And if you guys haven't seen it, go back, watch the live. Simba breaks it down in detail, right? Because all the points I was thinking of bringing up coming into this, I didn't realize that Simba brought them up in the last show. But to his points, right? Um,
Just, just
I
refresh the
I no
memory.
no yeah, I'll go into it, but basically, you know, everybody's talking about it. If you're watching this show, you've thought it. He's running away because of all the scandals with the money. We all think it. We all there's the reality is there is truth and untruth to that. It cannot be denied. No matter how much you
Mm,
try and say, well, he's tired, da da da. Da, there's no denying that his
yeah.
hands. he was doing one of these. You guys do what you want to do, but I want this, 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 and this, and this. Now things are coming out. He's like, guys, me, I was not part
I'm the
of.
bottom.
I
I'm
was
the
not part of putting out.
bottom.
So that's one side of it, right? And like any sports fan, anybody who knows anything about the Premier League cannot deny that this is the subtext. I'm a movie maker. There's what's said and what's unsaid, the subtext. This is clearly the subtext of this whole, standing down, him running away from these deals.
Yeah.
The other part of it is, and you mentioned this, he's what Simba says, the best gold digger. You guys watch the live. Simba breaks it down, but he's right. The best gold digger. Now, the only and what I means by that is that basically he only goes to teams that have the money to get him the players that he wants. Now, the only argument I'd have to that, because here's the thing, like in the film business, you have certain people who are like, I won't do the job unless I have X, Y, and Z. And they demand, right, these staples from, if it's a producer, from whatever, they demand certain things, right?
Yeah.
As a, if you're signing me, I'm getting this crane, I'm getting this person to be my assistant, I'm getting, like, this is part of, there's no question about it, right? And true artists have done this throughout generations, both athletic artists and like arts in general, musicians, part of. What works in his favor, here's the thing, Pep has never been a project guy. He's always been, I need the pieces. I'm coming in with my pieces, but if I come in with those pieces, I will win stuff. I will
elevate you. And I'll
right?
elevate
Like
you.
You can never question that I'm giving you a result. If I ask you for 100 mil, I'm bringing in 300. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no, like, you can look at my record, like that's the kind of guy I am. So
true.
It's not how I personally, it doesn't really align with my values of like working hard and building stuff or whatever. But I know people in my industry and lots of industries who are like that, and they deliver. So if you deliver, saying I'm expensive, but I deliver, you know what I mean? If you're the posh shorty who comes on the hand of the guy, but no chengeta no bika, no chengeta, like you take care of everything to the next level, you earned it. You know what I'm saying? So kudos for that. And that's where he'll go next. He'll take a break. I think I agree with you with what you said. You said probably 2 years. I agree. I think it'll be he'll do the club model, 2 or 3 years, maybe make a deal with somebody to try and be like a overall cha. Somebody mentioned maybe he'll go to Italy. Maybe you'll go to Italy. I don't see.
My guys in Italy.
maybe if Italian Border wanted to get back on the map, they'd make a pitch.
Too broke.
You know what I'm saying? Like
they're too broke.
Yeah, but maybe for club is like, listen, we're going all out to get Pep. We're giving him whatever he wants. We need Italian Border, because you mentioned it, right? Milan's, Lazio's, Roma, like the heyday of Italian Border, right? Like we were all watching Juventus. We were all watching it, you know what I mean? Totti, Del Piero's, like, everywhere. Like that was it. If I'm the Italian Federation, the Football Federation, and I'm looking at all my other things, right? I'm looking at France, right? Obviously, it's just PSG, but still, PSG is just well dominated. If they can beat Arsenal 2 back-to-back Champions League, French football's on the map. Obviously, English football is always a staple. Spanish football, always a staple, right? So, the top 4, the Mount
German
Rushmore,
with Bayern Munich.
Right. It used to be Italy, Germany, England, and Spain, right? Those are the heads on Mount Rushmore on border of European football. Now France is kind of saying, Italy, get out the way, So if I'm an Italian federation, I'm talking to a club with money. I'm saying, guys, let's get him in here. Let's get him to do these things. Let's find money. And if you're Juve, and because realistically,
AC Milan,
Inter. AC Milan, Juve, Inter. Like those are maybe Lazio, but I don't know if Lazio in recent years they have been, but like I don't see them. It's the big ones. It's the Italian Roma. It's the Rome teams.
The Lazio is a Rome team.
Well, I mean the big one, like Inter. Sorry, Milan and Rome teams. So Milan, like
So I agree with you that if I was the Italian government, I would give Juventus
100%.
like $2 billion and say, guys, Juve or AC Milan or Inter Milan or Roma, or even
make your
Lazio as well, because
bids.
Lazio does have has a Napoli as well. Napoli nowadays is
Napoli,
dominating.
yeah,
Atalanta
yeah,
not Atalanta in recent years has also been dominating in
yeah.
Italy. But I'll probably take Atalanta side. But I would say, Juve is the obvious Italian
Right.
talent, right? So you go to Juve, you say Juve, yes, $2 billion. Get Guardiola back in the Guan, right? Because if Guardiola comes back into your league, right, and he starts dominating and winning and playing beautiful football, you get more viewers watching, right? That generates more revenue for the Italian Serie A, right? And then other managers want to sort of cut their mustard against Guardiola, right? They want the challenge. Can I beat Guardiola? So a Roma becomes more interesting. A Lazio becomes more interesting. A Napoli becomes more interesting, right? So there's a AC Milan and Inter Milan, and then more investors want to come in, right? Beyond the t-shirts and stuff like that. So you start generating more revenue. So with the right one or two moves, you could, yeah. But as I said before, I don't think Pep is a project guy. I don't think he'll want to do that. I don't think he'll want to do that.
I mean,
So
that's what I'm saying.
I
He
think
needs to
like
get he needs to get all his players. He have to be like, listen, I want all my players from Man City come over to Italy, and he'll need to basically have a carte blanche, which you know there may not be enough there for him to work with, but I can see being good for him. We'll talk Maresca after this. I don't know if you have another point before we're going to talk to Maresca about
yeah.
Maresca.
We'll take America. We'll take America. One thing I wanted to talk about, right, is that it's an angle that I just thought about, like when I finished the live earlier this afternoon, right? Is
Mm.
an angle that okay, when Ferguson left Manchester United, because he had just bought Luke Shaw, he bought Zaha, and then he bought Shinji Kagawa, right? And he literally apologized to the three of them, and Van Persie as well. Van Persie had been there for a whole season, right? And then he like in the January transfer window, he bought Shinji Kagawa, he bought Wilfred Zaha, he bought Luke Shaw, right? And he went and he got Van Persie, Luke Shaw, Kagawa, Zaha, and got them in a room and said, guys, I know one of the reasons why you came to Manchester United was to play under me, right? And now this is the transitional period is now coming. I feel bad and I apologize because I know this is going to affect your careers, right? So why I'm bringing this up, and it turned out to be true because Zaha didn't last long. Zaha basically shagged the daughter of David Moyes, so he was shipped out very very fast.
Oh,
Like
yo, yo.
he didn't have, yeah, he slept with David Moyes' daughter. I mean, just madness. So he was shipped out.
Wow.
Luke Shaw, Luke Shaw's had a good career, I think you could say. He's had an okay career. Van Persie had one great season, and then of course he faded away into the shadows as well.
Mm.
So Shinji Kagawa, I think, was just so mistreated. I think he had the potential to be a really, really good player for us. But the way that he was treated under David Moyes and subsequent, and then, under Louis van Gaal as well, he wasn't really treated well enough. And so I think that we killed his career. When he came out of Dortmund, he was one of the best players in the world, and then he just died at Manchester United. So you can see those kind of things happening. So I'm asking you this question because you've got Gay, and then you've got Semenyo, right? You've got Cherky, you've got maybe O'Reilly because he came through that, so we can put him aside. But you've got Cherky, you've got Haaland, you've got maybe Haaland because he's won a couple already. But let's say Cherky, Semenyo, Gay, right? These guys who have won nothing, like they just won a couple of cups, right? But they're like new to Manchester City, and especially Semenyo and Doku
Yeah.
and and now Guardiola's gone. What happens to those players, bro? Like Semenyo and Gay, and they're too good to be playing in the championship. If let's say something happens to them, these charges are coming up, maybe they get docked points and stuff. So now they're struggling for the they are meant to be challenging for Champions Leagues and league titles and all these things, right? And they just had a little bit of, especially for Semenyo and Gay and stuff, right? They've had a little bit of a taste, but they're out now. They're not in the Champions League anymore. They won't be like competing for these cups anymore. So what happens to these players? And Guardiola's gone now. He's gone. What happens?
So I think it kind of speaks into the whole Maresca thing and on what he's getting, right? Like he's cut from the same cloth. I think in general, it's kind of a lateral, maybe a little bit step down, but basically a lateral move for Manchester City. I think he's getting, I think a large part of how he starts at Manchester City depends on what happens to the points, right? Because if they get docked 10 points and they start in the middle of the middle of the table or something, fine. They'll be top 10. They'll go into it being like, our goal is to get top 10. But we want to play good football, right? You keep these guys happy because it's like, listen, yes, we're starting from a poor place, but like you're still playing great ball. We're still playing the same system. You know what I mean? Like we're still Maresca is gonna. Because here's the thing, Maresca, Chelsea. I think his last game for Chelsea was against Leeds, if I remember correctly. And like maybe they knew Xavi was gonna come to Chelsea. I don't think they did, but that is a ballsy move because Maresca. We saw him at Leicester, right? We saw him what he was starting to do at Chelsea. Maresca is what you were saying about what Carrick isn't, is what Maresca is, right? He has proven that he can do it. He was an assistant, right, under Pep. He took Leicester, he took them from the Championship, he brought them up. He then went to Chelsea, and Chelsea were doing really well. You know, whatever internal conflict was happening behind the scenes is one thing, but they were doing really well with Maresca. So he's proven his salt, right? He's proven what he's worth. These players are going to come and he's going to come and start quoting these players. But the reality is, like, he has the backing of the league or whatever. And if they don't get docked enough to go down to the Championship, right? Then let's say they did get docked 10 points or 20 points or whatever, right? Let's say 10 points. As long as the players are playing well and like he gets this keeps the motivation that they had, I think they'll be fine because there's nowhere else for them to go at the moment. If Pep jumped from Man City and went to another job, I'm saying at this level, they could go to other teams in England, but you're not going to go to back the English team. Why would you? Where would you go? Haaland will go to play for who?
Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they go to Real Madrid or Barcelona or Chelsea?
No. I'm talking about you don't go to Chelsea, you don't go to Tottenham, you don't go to Arsenal.
Why?
That's
Why not?
in the league. Because you've proven that your team it's competition. You want to be competing against teams. You don't want to be like, that's why Semenyo went to Manchester City, because you want to be in a team that's competing for great stuff. That's why, you're getting these players coming to big clubs because you want to compete at a high level. You're not going to then go to Tottenham to compete for what?
Why can't you go
You're
to
not
Arsenal?
competing.
Why can't Semenyo go to Arsenal?
Again, you said a rival, right? So you're saying like this is a rival team. Once you pick a side, once you say I'm picking, it's like picking Everton and saying, why don't you go and play for Liverpool? Here's the thing: you're not going to go to Arsenal. You're not going to go.
I disagree.
I'm not saying that they don't go play for Europe. They can go and play for Barca. They can go and play for Real. That's a different thing. Europe as a whole is one thing. But here's the thing: I think that there's enough in the system and enough in and Pep is going to be like, this is my protege. Maresca is my protege. He has proven that he can do this without me. I am leaving you in good hands. Like a good neighbor, Allstate is there. I'm leaving you in good hands. And this guy is good hands. So for a season, I think Maresca will be fine. Assuming that he doesn't get put into a position where he's like subpar or something like that, where he's put into like, they start in the Championship. If they're playing against Wrexham or whatever, these guys are out. These guys are leaving. You know what I'm saying? These guys are gonna go because it's like, I didn't sign up for this. But if they stay in the Prem, and Maresca starts off the way Pep ended, dominating top 3 form, because they may not be top 3, top 4 with their performances, with their points. But if their form is top 3, top 4, I see them being happy for a season, and then they reassess after that. Now, if Pep gets a job in a year or two somewhere else, then the Dokus are the ones that saying, do I go to my boss if they haven't been playing well?
I think I disagree with you, and I think I let the Leeds thing slide a bit because we're talking about something different. But I think that the history of the Premiership is completely against what you're saying. Players, look, if you are a Leeds Academy player, right? A Leeds Academy player, you go up to the system, blah blah blah. I can understand you not moving to Manchester United. I really can. But if you're French or Welsh or something along those lines, right, you're not going to care. Right? That's why players have moved from Leeds to Manchester United all the time, right? They move all the time. Look at Liverpool, for instance. Liverpool, Michael Owen, right? Michael Owen and Paul Lens are the exceptions to the story. But I'll give you an example. Gabriel Heinze, right, played for Manchester United, and he wanted to go to Liverpool. Right? And then Ferguson said, dude, I will send you anywhere but Liverpool, right? But he didn't care because he wasn't a Mancunian. He wasn't born in Manchester. He didn't go up through the thing. He doesn't care about the rivalry. Same thing with Ronaldo, who moved from Barcelona to Real Madrid, or Luis Figo, who moved from Barcelona to Real Madrid. If you're not born there, you don't care, right? And so for me, players have gone. Look at Madueke, literally moved from Chelsea to Arsenal, right? Or like Zinchenko moved from Man City to Arsenal. Gabriel, Man City to Arsenal. How many Arsenal players have moved to Man City? Kolo Torre, Sanya moved from Arsenal to Man City. Nasri moved from Man City to Welbeck moved from Manchester United to Arsenal. Van Persie moved from Arsenal. I mean, like, I could go on and on and on and on. The non things like Arsenal, Tottenham, it can't happen. Although it does happen in the academy level. So Campbell, for instance, and Harry Kane. Harry Kane was an Arsenal youth, and then he went to Tottenham. So Campbell was a Tottenham youth. He went to Arsenal, right? So it happens in the academies, but top level is generally it's frowned upon for Arsenal, Tottenham, because those are true rivals. Leeds, Manchester United, or Manchester United, Liverpool, or Manchester United, Man City, right? Is just frowned upon. But besides those clubs, Man City's only rival in the Premiership is like their death rivals are Manchester United, right? And possibly Liverpool, but not really, right? And so because Liverpool plays, what's his name? John Stones went from Everton to Man City. So did the English player. I'm forgetting his name. Went from Liverpool to Man City, right? So it's not like that's a taboo. It's not at all. But Manchester United if Haaland went to Manchester United, it's never going to happen. That's never going to happen, right? But Haaland going to Arsenal, there is nothing that stops him from going to Arsenal. Nothing that stops him from going to Chelsea. Nothing that stops him from going to Liverpool, for instance. But I think he'll probably go to Real Madrid or Barcelona because he's on that level. But
that's
certainly
what I'm saying is,
Semenyo, all of the players, they can certainly go to any club in the Premiership, right? So that's my first point. I think the movement part, I think they can easily move to any of these clubs.
Yeah, but it's based on competitiveness. It's based on competitiveness. Because here's the thing: if they don't get dock points and they get out of it, why move to like your rival? Yes, you have perennial rivals, but the rival is the one who just won the tournament. In basketball, who are you competing to beat? You're competing to take the place of the top team. So if Arsenal win the championship Sunday, right? If they win the title the first time since 2000 in Chagudi. Yeah. They are the team you want to beat, right? And if Man United isn't docked that many points or whatever, the Semenyos, City, the Semenyos, the Gahis, the Dokus are going to be like, right, this is our competition, right? We gave them one, now we're going for it. And if you're a competitive guy, you're saying, I want to take that spot with this team. If they get docked and things get a bit, that's what I'm saying. It depends on where they are. If they're in a place where they're not, they can't win, then they may start thinking about things. But if it's a point where it's like, they've said it's fine and whatever, then these guys are going to want to go to the Arsenals. They're going to want to compete against the best team in the country.
I think you're right in the sense that if right, Man City is too competitive, and in terms of like just 10 points, 5 points, whatever. But every report that's coming out, because they've got 115 charges, right? Every report that's coming out is saying at least 40 points. Sometimes some are even saying 60, right? So I'm assuming, let's split the baby, probably around 30 points, right? If Man City with Guardiola gone, right, and they're docked 30 points, right, they're going to get relegated. They're going to get relegated, right? They're going to get relegated, right? And so Semenyo, Cherki, Haaland, all these players, are they going to want to be in a dogfight at the bottom of the league? They're not going to want that, right? They're going to want to play, they're not going to be, because they'll be the champions. It depends what UEFA do, right? Because UEFA is waiting for the English Premier League, right? But I think they'll still be in the Champions League.
Yeah.
So imagine being in the Champions League and you're fighting for relegation. I mean, you literally be like Leeds, you guys, right? Where you're in the Champions League, but you're fighting relegation, right? Yeah. And so that nobody wants that. And so you might stomach it for half a season, but in January, certainly, I promise you, these guys will be willing to jump off the boat. And they would have no qualms. Semenyo will have no loyalty. He wasn't born in Manchester. He wasn't born in England. He doesn't care, Fadi. He doesn't care. If he is going relegated, he's looking like the team looks like they're like 40 points behind Southampton or whoever is last in the table. right?
Yeah.
He's going to look to jump ship, bro. Same with Doku, same with Turkey. They won't care whether they play for Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea. They won't go to Manchester United 100% because they'll feel like, they'll probably get the fans will probably hunt them down and, that kind of thing. But they won't care. That's the first thing. The second thing I want to say is about points. I think it's going to be more than just 10 points. I think it's going to be quite significant, right? I think there'll be transfer bans. I think there'll be loads of points. I think it's going to be 30 because Guardiola jumping ship, I think, is an indicator that it's not going to be a slap on the wrist. It's not, right? It's not. So I think it's going to be quite significant, the fine. So that's the second point. The third point, I think, is Maresca. You know him better than I do. You do. You know him better than I do. You've watched him for longer than I have, really, because I've only watched him at Chelsea, right? And his Chelsea teams were up and down. Although I always thought that he was hindered by the board, right? Because the board were making mad decisions, right? Mad footballing decisions, selling players when they shouldn't, buying players that were mad. Like the guy has got no, like the goalkeeper that he got. My goodness, bro. What coach can work with Sanchez? Right? Like tell me, right? And that wasn't his buy, right?
Could.
None of the goalkeepers were his. They won the Club World Championship under him, right? But but they didn't win much else. In fact, they won nothing else, right? They won the Club World Championship, and then like in the Premiership, they were up and down. Sometimes they were like second, sometimes they were like sixth. They were up and down. They weren't like they were dominating. They were like top of the league. They were like all these things. Yes, that's why I said they were the Kakashi of football, right? Sometimes they'd go and wallop Man City. Sometimes they'd lose to Burnley, right?
Yeah.
And that was happening under Maresca as well, right? So yes, he's won a trophy. He won the championship. Yes, he won the Club World Championship, right? And so all indicators are pointing to him being an excellent manager. I agree there. But he's not Pep. He's not Pep, right? And so there's going to be a drop-off there, right? Because I don't think, because I've seen him in interviews, by the way. He seems like an intelligent guy. He seems like he knows what he's doing, know what he's talking about, right? But Pep, with the history that Pep has, the gravitas. So Pep walks into the dressing room, right? At Man City, especially at Man City, the players have to listen to everything he says. If he tells you to jump, all you have to say is how high. Maresca is not going to carry that weight with the Turkeys of the world and all these guys. He's not going to be able to walk in the dressing room and say, look, how high, jump, and then the players will say how high. They might look at him like, okay, maybe we'll listen at first, but there'll be an eagle eye on him. He's going to have to pass. And so is he going to have the time with the 30-point or 20-point or whatever it is deficit?
Yeah.
Is he going to have the time to implement these things with these superstar players, right? Like Haaland. Luckily, I think mainly the players in Man City have got a good attitude. It's not like Real Madrid, right? I think Turkey is a problem child. Is a Mamouche. Mamouche seems like he's dope. Foden might be a bigger problem as well. There might be one or two players who might be like, look, why Kovacic, players like that, why am I not playing? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You might not get there might be a transfer ban, so you might not get the Andersons and the players that he wanted to get. Rodri and Neymar are grumbling like they want to leave. Rodri might go.
Rodri
right? So suddenly suddenly you've got a midfield of Gonzalez and Kovacic, which is a huge drop off from Rodri and Bernardo Silva, right? You get what I'm saying? So there's some issues that he's going to have to face there. So under those circumstances, number one, lots of points. Number two, there's going to be an embedding period, right? What is going to, I can see Semenyo and them guys leaving, going to Real Madrid, going to, PSG. PSG need a striker. Haaland can easily go to PSG. Right? Real Madrid need a striker. Barcelona need a striker. They can easily get people like that.
I can see them going.
Yeah.
He is. So I've seen Maresca, like he was in the championship, right, with Leicester. And like, Maresca is more at the level of he is in the same camp as De Zerbi, Arteta's, maybe not quite as Pep level, but like he is a kind of manager who comes in. He's a tactician and he demands a certain way of being. And you're right. Okay. I think it's going to be more akin to when Arteta started at Arsenal, right? I think there's going to be that friction in the beginning.
Yeah.
I see it going that way. I see it, here's the thing. Also for me, I think the FA is going to have to be kind of, very tactical about how much they dock points from Manchester City. It is one of the biggest money makers, right? For the league. It has, on paper, it has all these players who may leave. It is in the current era, because here's the thing, Simba. If you look at the NBA, if you look at the NFL, every sport is trying to compete for attention. This is what it comes down to. Every sport is trying to compete for attention. I know you're going to give me stats about Manchester United being the biggest team in the world,
Not about
Real
Manchester
and
United.
Barca.
Not about
Here's
Manchester
the
United.
thing,
Not about Manchester
Simba,
United.
what I'm saying is the FA, right? You can have, would you rather have one dominant club that's getting world attention, maybe two, or would you have a strong 3 or 4 clubs that are world dominators? You want 3 or 4 clubs that are world dominators for your football, for England to be the top uh, league in the world, right? So you need a strong Manchester United, you need a strong Manchester City, you need a strong Arsenal, and to an extent, you need a strong Liverpool, right? You need these teams to be strong. Tottenham going down is the reason it's so much of a slap in the face is because this is supposed to be one of their linchpins.
One of
Because
the big
again,
six.
they are competing, right? England is competing against Spain. Spain is competing against Germany. Germany is competing against, like, they're all competing.
France, Italy, yeah.
France, like, they're all competing, right? As entities, not just individual teams, but as the British Football Federation or whatever the term is.
So
Italians.
you're putting forth the too big to fail argument, right? Too big to fail argument, right? That's what you say.
They will have to have that, and it will be significant, but I'm saying they're going to strategically be like, how can they do it and be competitive, right? What's a decent thing? So I think it's more going to be in the range of 15 points is what I'd say. I think 15 would be a thing without limiting the transfers, limiting, so optically being like, you guys can't in and out for the next blah, blah, blah years, because I think Manchester City being a strong, because here's the thing, if they get off 15 points, they'll be playing middle of the table football in the Prem, but still competing and maybe winning the championship, the Champions League, or competing for the Champions League. Now, do I think Maresca is going to win the Champions League his first time out? No. But can they be competitive? Yes. So if they're middle of the table in the Premier League and competing in the Champions League, that's a good season. You know what I'm saying? That's a good first season for Maresca.
Yeah. Look, here's where I disagree with you, Farisa. Here's where I disagree with you. Because when you've seen other teams that have been under similar situations, right? Teams that have had like not even half of the crimes that Man City is being accused of have had like 10 points, 8 points around there. And they're not even a half, not even like a third of what Man City have had, right? And then on top of that, you got the 35 charges, right? Which are the ones where Man City have refused to cooperate, like literally blocking evidence and blocking stuff from coming in, right? So you got that on top of everything else, right? And so I don't think it's going to be 15 points. I think it will be a minimum of 20 points, right? If they're actually being serious. Because here's the thing, right? They have to take into consideration. If they let Man City get away with it, right? Because you're talking about, this is not Africa, right? You're African sports guy, right? This is Europe, right?
It's all about money, bro.
No. What will happen is that other clubs will do it as well. They will do the same thing, right? So I'll give an example of the sort of like, if you look at the world economy, why is it that every sort of like 15 to 20 years there's a crash? Why is it there's an economic crash? Because there are no real consequences, right, for the perpetrators that do these things. And so it incentivizes them, right, to do unscrupulous things in the name of growth, in the name of profit, right? And then what happens is something crashes and then 1 or 2 people go to jail. Like in 2008, I think 1 person went to jail and they went to a dope jail, right? And they weren't there for very long, right? Otherwise, the millions of people around the world, hundreds of millions of people suffered greatly, right? But nothing happens to them. And so they're incentivized to do these things. And so people are not dumb. I'm telling you right now, if the English Premier League let this slide, right, what's going to happen is that the Manchester Uniteds, the Chelseas, they are going to go and do the exact same thing as Man City do, right? Because if I'm saying I can get 10 years of success and then get 1 or 2 years of just getting slapped on the wrist, get like a young 10 points, what's stopping me from doing it? What's stopping me from doing it, right? And certainly UEFA won't allow it. UEFA won't just give them a slap on the wrist. So they're gonna get hefty fines. And let me just finish the point. I think they're gonna get hefty fines. Now, that your point, and I made that point earlier, your point about wanting to preserve the issue of the attractiveness of the Premier League, I think that's what's stopping them from being relegated. Number one. and that's what's stopping them from having their title stripped. Number 2, right? Because by all intents and purposes, they should have had the titles taken away and they should have been relegated, right? But that's not going to happen. And I think it's a good thing for football. Why? Because if I say, ask yourself, would you rather have Man City in the championship, or is it a better spectacle for television to see Man City 30 points behind, right? And then struggling to see whether they can get a stave of relegation. Personally, I would rather see that as a fan, as a football fan, as a person who is a Manchester United fan who does not have any love for Manchester City, other than just my footballing brain. I would love to see Manchester City stay in the Premier League with minus 20, minus 30 points, or whatever it is, and then fight their way to avoiding relegation. That would be fascinating for me to see how they perform under that. That's proper television. So I think that's what they're going to do, right? But this thing, I think 10, 15 points, I don't think that's going to happen. Every report that's coming out, read every newspaper report that's coming out, they say at least, the newspaper saying 40 points to 60. Some are even saying 60 points.
But
I think that 60 points is I think it's going to be. Yeah, but I think in England, right, what happens in England is that the officials, they use the papers to feel out what the public, what they can get away with, what they can't get. So I think newspapers most likely, like we knew Guardiola was going to go. We knew Carrick was going to be the permanent manager. We knew Xavi Alonso was going to go to Chelsea. The newspapers in England are pretty accurate because these guys leak all the time. So I think in this case, I think it's going to be at least 30 points. It could be 20, 25, but nothing below 20, right? And in that case, because the English have to set the precedent. Because if they do Kayanga 10, 15 points, because I was just looking at the table now for the side. If you take away 15 points from Man City now, they finish 4th.
Right. Yeah, but that's
the
league.
They finish 4th.
The league. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, 4th or 5th or 6th.
I mean, to your point,
they're still in the Champions League.
Mathematical thing. It might be a mathematical
thing. They're still in the Champions League. So for me, it's like it means nothing to a team like Man City. And why? And again, Guardiola wouldn't have left. He would not have left if it was just got 10 points. He wouldn't.
Here's the thing, Silva. Here's the thing. To your point, it happens all the time. So like none of us are under the delusion that other teams are not going to do this. The Premier League is not going to be the one league in the world or the one organization in the world that gets it right, that de-incentivizes other teams from doing the same thing. Let's be real. If nations can't do it, if big corporations can't do it, if this happens time and time again, there's no way that the British Premier League, the English Premier League, is going to be the one federation, the one group, the one organization in the entire world that gets it right and stops these things from happening again. They will not, and they know they won't, right? And the fact that it's 10 years happening means they're playing the odds, right? They're playing the odds of how do we get out of this? Like you said, Siba, it's happened time and time again. So 15, maybe 20, but here's the thing. What they're gonna do is they're gonna say some serious fines. So they're gonna drop money. They're gonna charge them a lot of money. They're gonna dock them 15 points. They're gonna request that people be put to the sword. So somebody up in the up echelon. Right now, they're talking in the boardroom saying, guys, who's falling on the sword for us? Who's falling on the sword for this thing to happen? Somebody has to go to trial. Somebody has to say, hey, it was me. Hey, and make right. Put somebody in prison, right? Or deport, whatever it is, right? They're going to have to make an example. They need a pound of flesh. But to my point, everybody does it anyway. Like this whole thing with Andy, they're talking about Middlesbrough maybe getting into the playoffs because what's his name was cheating. Southampton was caught cheating, and now they have to make a rule about it. And they have to make a decision before May 26th. Otherwise, right? It happens. It happens all the time.
But you underplay Spygate. By the way, you underplay Spygate, right? You said you underplayed it. Now it's the big one. You're like, it's not a big one.
Look at Derby County. Look it up. Bielsa, Leeds, and Derby County. There was a whole big scandal. Yes, it wasn't a championship thing that they were watching. It wasn't the finals, right? That they were looking into, right? Frank Lampard, Bielsa. Look it up, right? It's happened before. It's now just the optics of it because it was at a championship final. They lost. The same thing that happened is going to be happening. They're going to be fined. You can say, this is bad. I don't like this. How dare you guys do that? We're going to talk about it and see what your punishment is going to be. But they'll still go in. And so they may say, listen, we
Yeah,
can't really
but
prove it. So if they go up, we'll give them deductions, such as again, they're saving face.
I think you're underplaying it, bro. I think you're underplaying it.
People
I think you're
spy
underplaying.
all the time, Simba.
No, not Spygate. Spygate is Spygate, right? What I'm saying is that the extent, like there's a couple of indicators, right? Number one, if you look at the other cases, like if you look at was it I'm forgetting the names now, but Chelsea is one of them. The other clubs that have done the same thing, Leicester as well. Bolton Wanderers, Bolton Wanderers and Blackburn, Bolton, Chelsea, Blackburn and Bolton, especially Blackburn, right? The investigation was very, very short. It wasn't very that long.
Right.
They got docked like 8 points, something along those lines, right? And they had like maybe 10 charges, right? Man City got 115 charges, right? 115 charges, right? Man City, right? And then they've also got on top of that 34 of those 115 charges, right? I'm not a lawyer, by the way. I'm not a lawyer, so don't like quote me on this. But 34 of those charges, from my understanding, my reading of the AI that I asked to research this, and also newspaper clippings, the 34 of those charges are obstruction, right? So Man City have been for years blocking and stopping these guys from, like, they don't send in for files when they ask for them. They send in false documents. They send in like, I'm asking for one page, they give you like 10,000 pages, right? And even like the why it's taking so long is because Man City gave them millions of documents, right, for them to go through. That's why it's taken like 3, 4 years, 5 years now, right, of going through this thing. So number one, it's taking such a long time to go through. Number two, loads of charges. Number three, there's also UEFA charges on top of that as well. So it's not only England, right? So I think that it's going to be a hefty fine, 100% hefty fine. Number two, I think it's going to be more than 15 games, but I think it's going to be like 20 or 30 games. I really do. I really think that's going to be the thing. And then I would say that.
Okay, go ahead.
And then I would say, right? I would say that just looking at the history of it, I would say that, right? And then I would say, look, the most egregious thing about this situation is this, right? And this is why many were calling for the titles to be removed, right? Is because if you look at how Pep Guardiola did, like what he would do, right? You'd have a right back, you didn't like the right back, boom. So you bought a right back for 50 million, didn't like the right back, another guy 50 million, right? Another guy 50 million, right? And so he was literally just doing things, and Mourinho complained about it. The Liverpool guy at that time, as Bernardo Rodgers, I don't know who it was, but complained bitterly about it as well. Solskjaer complained about it. Unai Emery complained about it. Wenger complained about it. Not Wenger, is Unai Emery. I'm like, a lot of Chelsea managers were complaining, like, guys, if I had this amount of money and I could just do what I wanted to do, right, then of course I would also get similar results. I could also be winning left, right, and center, right? And so that is the cheating part of it, right? Which is unfair, right? Because they have been restricting. You got clubs like Tottenham, like Arsenal, right, which literally built their stadiums from ground up, sacrificing years and years of championship and winning and stuff like that. They couldn't buy the place because they're doing things the right way. And then and again, that's another thing we're forgetting about. It's a government entity. It's not literally just a private club, right? So I'll say that there's a lot of, and then the final thing I think that I've forgotten to tell you about was that, look, Man City doesn't have a loads of fans around the world. They just don't, right? They just don't have as many fans as Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham. I would even argue that Leeds has got more fans than Man City around the world, right? I think they do, right?
Not in the current era.
No, not even like I'm saying is like, if Man City is out of the Premier League, it's not going to dent the viewership. It's just not, right? Any club, like look at the same thing they said about Manchester United, right? One of the top 3 or 2 biggest clubs on earth, right, on the planet. They're not in the Champions League, right? And of course, viewership went down by a bit, but still, it carried on. They lived forward. It's still, Champions now is better than it's ever. No, not better than it's ever been, but it was dope, right? Right? Whether Manchester United wasn't there or not. They said the same thing about the World Cup. No Italy, right? But the World Cup would be fine without Italy, right? Italy won the World Cup 4 times. The second winningest team in the look. It doesn't matter. Juve got relegated from the Scudetto, right? It doesn't matter. The Premier League will be fine. Arsenal got loads of fans. So does Liverpool. So does Chelsea. So does Tottenham. So does Manchester United. And also, you have to remember, Man City will be gone for a season or 2. They'll be back just now. They'll be back. They're not going to be there for a long time. They've got too much money. And Maresca is too good a coach, right? That he will not be, So for me, I think that the Premiership will be fine. I hope that Man City get like a 20 or 30 point whatever deduction, and I would love to see them struggling to stay in the Premiership, whether they get relegated or not. That'll be good television for me. So I think that'll be the
So
punishment.
I think the one caveat that I think we're both going to have in this conversation is that we are of the mindset that, do the right thing, right? If you're a good upstanding person and you see right and wrong, right? You and I have very similar values, right? Understanding the rights and the wrongs, the goods and the bad, and so what we see as, oh, you know what? Earn your way back up and do these kinds of things. Like that's how we'd coach. That's how we do things. The reality is, the system is not built that way. An example I'll give, and I'm not going to get too much into it because we really don't talk about politics on this thing. But America has been going through a weird things that's been happening, right? Things that evidence is there, and evidence is ignored, right? Video stuff is there that's seen. People they've been captured on footage doing stuff, and they've been allowed to move on and do stuff. So all I'm saying is that this, I think the child in me or the purist in me wants to think the best out of all these things and think that there should be, punishment or whatever. You said that the government is involved in this. The government is tied to all kinds of things, and it's about revenue, right? It's about finances. And if a deal can be made that punishes enough optically, but there's some sort of, transactions that happen. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen. What I'm saying is we're in a world now where, expecting a body to do the right thing morally is not taking into account the political nature of all these decisions and how they can be influenced. That's what I'll say.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point that, and for the longest time, I had the exact same opinion as you, in the sense that I thought that Man City were going to get away with it. I thought that Qatar money was going to buy its way out of the situation, right? I thought the same way. But the thing that gives me hope, and it's purely hope, Farisai. It's not. I'm not planting my flag on this one, right? I think it's purely hope. The hope is that Newcastle is owned by the Saudis, right? Basically the Saudi government, right? Just like Man City and PSG are owned by the Qatari government, right? So they're basic government entities that own these things, these clubs, right? And so I think that's why that's another thing that I think they should ban from football. Really, so unfair. It really is unfair, right? I can understand like Americans and stuff, billionaires, whatever. If you're a billionaire, but I think who can compete against the government, bro? Jeez, really unfair. But anyway, look, it is what it is. Free market economics, right? What it is, right? But here's the thing: if Qatar gets away with it, then Newcastle will be the champions next season, or the champions for the next 10 years. Because Newcastle will just turn around and do the exact same thing. Because for them, they have just as much money as the Qataris have. They really do, right? And what prevents them from doing the exact same thing, right? What prevents another guy coming in and buying a Everton or whatever it is, and then just do the exact same thing that Man City have done, right? Where you get a Saudi company suddenly wants to sponsor Newcastle for billions of dollars, right? And you're like, okay, where does this club come from? Who owns it? How are they connected to, and then you see like all sorts of things, which is what Man City were doing, right? That's what Man City were doing. And so what gives me hope is that the Premier League have got enough foresight, right? Even if they're morally bankrupt, that they have enough foresight for their product, right? Because, if you look at remember the time when they had the Amazon and all these owners wanted to get back and do like an American style league, right? With like a American style Champions League thing. And then everyone was people were protesting on the streets and everything. Why were they protesting? Because they wanted meritocracy to reign. They didn't want like an American style system, which I'm sorry to say, but it's, no relegation, no nothing. You have the same clubs, same teams, and so they didn't want that at all. Yeah, they wanted the sort of like European Super League, right? And people were so pissed, and people were on the street. I think COVID also had a bit to do with that as well. People just frustrated because of COVID as well. But you get people who were completely adamant and against it. FIFA came out strongly against it. You know, they were banning people, telling whatever. Italy was sort of hoping and praying that this would actually happen, but they couldn't see any other way of reviving their team, making them relevant again.
Yeah.
And this was like a shortcut to make them super relevant, right? And the Champions League changed formats simply because of this situation, right? And the Club World Championship changed formats because of that situation, right? Because FIFA and UEFA reacting to what the Super League was going to bring to the table, right? And so the same thing that stopped greed ruling that day, I'm hoping works in this situation. Not because I hate Man City, no, because I think that the brand of how Man City did things off the pitch, right, is not very attractive. Hence why Man City don't fill their stadiums. They just don't, right? They don't fill stadiums. People literally travel from all over the world to fill Old Trafford. It's not easy to get a ticket at Old Trafford, right? It's not easy, right? It's just not. It's not easy to get one at Arsenal. Leeds Stadium is full all the time. Ellen Road is always full, right? But Man City Stadium, they can't fill their stadium. Under Abramovich, by the way, and under Mourinho, Chelsea also struggled to fill their stadium, right? They really did. They went always, the stadium wasn't always full under Abramovich and Mourinho. Why? Because people love authenticity. They love authentic stuff. They don't like bought stuff. If it's too much like you bought the title, like look at Blackburn. Why does nobody talks about Blackburn winning the Premiership? Why? Because that Jack, whatever his name is, the billionaire, he literally bought that title. He bought that title, right?
Yeah,
and so no one gives them any props for that. And so I think there's an element of my hope, and I'm not saying, I'm not planting my flag on this, so my hope is that that spirit of fairness, that spirit of trying to protect the brand of the Premier League, right, which is what I think is the selling point, right? Hopefully that can prevent the nepotism and greed and corruption.
I think we'll see. I think the best part is that we will find out in the next few weeks what world we live in, which would be
we know what world we live in, bro.
Oh yeah, but hopefully, you know, like we would love fairness to reign. You know, I'm a bit more of a pessimist than being like, you know what, there are factors outside of our control that may influence that, but we will see.
Okay, cool, man. Okay, so let's move on. I just want to talk quickly about since we're still in Manchester, look about Manchester United, right? Carrick officially the new manager. We're now very, very positive. We've gone from never Carrick to always Carrick, right? Never Carrick to forever Carrick, right? On this channel, we're now changed our minds. And there's something I want to say to you, Fadi, that I hope that because again, talking about the world we live in, right? There's too much cynicism in this world, right? There's just too much cynicism. And so I think to guys that are watching, look, I was never Carrick because of footballing reasons. It wasn't personal at all. I had nothing against the man as the manager, and I really enjoyed what he did in terms of the results of what he brought to Manchester United, right? And so a lot of you, and if I say you're not the only one, by the way, in comments as well, people have been sort of like, so now let's see, blah, 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 blah. You're not going to stop supporting whatever, right? And I think that you got me all wrong. I support Manchester United, and I want them to do well. So whomever the manager is, right, I want them to flourish and do well. And so first, I asked me a poignant question in the last podcast, whether I'm rooting for Carrick to do badly so that we can just get him out, right? Or whether I actually want him to do very well, even though it means that I'm wrong and whatever, right? I want him to do well. So I'm behind him, and I think that's how the world should operate, right? We can have disagreements on certain issues. We cannot agree on certain things. I can be a Dynamos fan, you can be a Highlanders fan. We cannot agree, but at the end of the day, we all love football, and let beauty, compassion, and love reign, right? So I'm not going to be like being all negative on Carrick at all. I'm not at all. I'm going to be rooting for him. I hope he does well, and if he becomes a new Ferguson, I would be the first one to celebrate, right? And I'll hold up my hand and say I was wrong. I was wrong if he flourishes. And the game against Nottingham Forest was a good example of that. If we can play something like what we did against Nottingham Forest, I will not be adverse to that. I'll not be adverse to that, right? So just to cap up, there's a funny story that I wanted to tell you. I don't know if you watched that game. So at the end of the game, right, because it was Casemiro's last game, right? And also Malacia's last game, right? And so, you know, the whole stadium was singing Casemiro songs. Like, his family was on the pitch. There were tears. Like, people were really just celebrating the guy, like super, super celebrating him, right? He's not a Manchester United legend. He's just not. He's not a Manchester United legend, but he's a footballing legend. And I think as fans, we appreciate that he graced our pitch with his magnificence and his greatness. Because at times this season he has been great. He literally has been great this season, right? I think he scored like 9 goals or something. He's been tremendous, and like 5 assists. He's been tremendous for us. And every game that he hasn't played, we've almost lost or drawn, right? Every game is, we either lose or draw when he hasn't played. So I think the stat is ridiculous. Like when he's on the pitch, the amount of goals we concede to when he's off the pitch. I mean, it's ridiculous. The stats, right? The stat line. So he had a great season. We love Casemiro, but I think they did something that was a bit offside. So at the end, like when people are like, Casemiro gives a speech, Carrick gives a speech, everyone's like celebrating like a new era at Man United. Then you get the little Malacia, the little guy. He's a little guy. They're like, also come, also say goodbye to Malacia. And I was like, I understand the spirit in which they did it. I think it was just too embarrassing, man. They should have just left him, bruh. Because it's like a participation trophy. It's like, oh, my little Malasia, oh, poor little boo-boo, come through, people don't like you. Because Malasia has done nothing for us. He's done nothing for us, right?
I know.
He's played like, maybe 12, 20 games. I mean, he's done nothing, bruh. And when he's been on the pitch, he's been awful. Absolutely awful, right? He didn't cost us a lot of money. That's why Manchester United fans don't hate him. But I think that was a bit offside there. I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing. Every team did that. Like the teams that won, like Leeds did that. We put in Joe Pirro, who was, our leading scorer in the championship. And I think he scored 1 goal this entire season in the FA Cup. Like he was just a non-factor. Bench warmer extraordinaire. But they gave him a little swan song at the end. Sam Byram, who came back to us, Mchembere, it's like everybody kind of got their little farewell thing, There's talk of Tanaka leaving, so they tried to put Tanaka forward. He kind of stayed back.
Why is he leaving?
I'm not sure. I mean, I thought after his performance, he would have, they would have wanted to keep him, but there's talks of him going, I'm not sure where, but there's talks of him maybe exiting Nyonto. It sounds like Nyonto's going to leave, and there's talk of going to Germany, but now Italian clubs are kind of, vying for him. Melier, literally after the he sat on the pitch on a ball just looking by himself at Egg. I mean, it was pretty sad, but all the comments were like,
why don't you guys like that guy? You're a fan.
Here's the thing. You need to have thick skin as a professional athlete in this game, because you have a bad spell and you're done forever, and you can turn into Harry Kewell. Harry Kewell and Leeds.
Can you explain your beef with Harry Kewell, please? Can you explain your beef with Harry Kewell? Because that's something I never understood.
So basically,
please explain to me.
Harry Kewell, great couple of seasons, that's 2000s or whatever. He had some bad form or whatever. He left, and then after he left, people asking, "Oh, what is your experience at Leeds?" And he being in his honesty, he's like, I didn't like how the fans treated me. If you're going to go out and call out fans and how
he said he didn't like the way the fans treated him.
Yeah, it's something in that frame where basically
you guys treat him not well?
Because when you're not playing well, they'll shout, come on here, you're not playing well. That's what I'm saying. You have to have thick skin as a player, because fans are going to complain. Fans are going to be like, hey, you're not playing as well as you should.
Was he part of the squad that got relegated?
Part of the relegation, yeah. And so after that, he left, and then he went and he was like, Leeds fans, like, saying saying enough to make the fans be like, oh.
You went to Liverpool right after that, right? Went to Liverpool.
Yeah, he left us. But the fact, it was more what he said than what he did. Leaving and you say, listen, I like my time in Elland Road, and like I was sad I couldn't do it is one thing. When you go and you mouth off, you create a chasm that goes forever. Especially when you're an older club that's on bad fortune and you've gone down, and this player who's now in the top flight kind of left you behind. There was a whole thing with Jack Harrison when he stayed at Everton. Didn't want to come down. That relationship never quite repaired. He's on loan to Fiorentina. He's probably not coming back. Like, there's a certain things when
you guys got him from Man City,
right? He actually played in the MLS. He played in the MLS.
Who's the guy from Manchester City?
That's Manchester City. He might have been on their
Yeah, he
lower
was a
squad.
the youth player that you
He
guys
was a
bought
youth
from Man
guy.
City,
Then he went
right?
to play to MLS. Then he came to Leeds. He did really well.
Yeah,
He came up with us. And
he
then
was
when we
on
went
loan,
down,
right?
he went to Everton. Yeah,
He was
and
on
he
loan at first, and
refused
then
to
you
come
guys brought him. Yeah,
back. And so yeah, and
but
then
he
he
had
refused to
one
come
game where
back.
he was absolutely amazing, bro. I remember that goal that he
He
scored
had
with
a
like
great
dribble like
spell.
10 players, bro.
Yeah,
And he
I
had
mean
like
his
a
left
spell of
foot.
like 10 games or something where he was
Yeah,
just like, yo, I thought that this guy
his
was the
left
truth,
foot was
bro.
on fly. Everton thought they were going to get him and do that. He didn't. He was past his prime. But the fact that's why like Aronson, right, who left again. They went down. He went to Berlin on loan. He came back to the championship and improved himself. He put his head down and he grafted. Right? There's nothing more, especially when you're in a town that's like a blue collar, hardworking town. They give nothing more than people who are like, listen, you can talk all you want. I'm gonna show myself in the football field. When you show that you have that internal motivation, you had that Taura before, and you show up, you cannot do anything but respect. When you start mouthing off saying, "Oh, it's the management, it's the team, it's these guys, the culture, this and that," they're going to be dead to you. Because here's the thing: uh, if you're maybe in London, is spoiled for choice with all the teams they have, right? Chelsea, Fulham, Millwall, Tottenham, Arsenal.
Ah, they have
So you can
loads. They
kind of
have
be
loads, yeah.
fair weather, right? You can be fair weather. You can choose to like them one day. You can choose to be like on and off, whatever. When you're in these, especially in the north, right? The Manchesters, the Liverpools, the Leeds, the Sunderlands. When you're these small regional places, right? There's a certain level of loyalty that you expect your players to love your team more than they love any of the other big teams that they play for. Is this unrealistic expectations? So Harry Q went and he said, Leeds, dead to him.
Do you
Dead
think?
to
Do you think that he was unfairly vilified though for those results? Was he?
I
Because
think
I seem to, because I had forgotten, but now I remember. Like he was under pressure, bruh, and you guys
that
were just booed him all the time, and it was like,
but this is
what was he
this is
doing that was so wrong? I mean, like he wasn't
this
performing
is
right, but like we have Dalot who's like just sometimes performs like just like an idiot, right? But we
yeah.
don't boo him, we don't boo him. Like even when he finished 15th last year, the season before, we weren't booing these guys.
Right, but
So
it's about what you're
like,
saying off the pitch. It's about what you're saying
was
off
he
the pitch.
saying that
If you
when he was still playing for Leeds?
Well, I think you just carry yourself. If you're a team guy, you're saying, "Hey guys, like I'm
Mm.
trying my best. I'm doing this." When you're like, "I don't know what I'm doing. They don't give me the balls. It's not my fault." Then people start
Was that what
thinking,
you're saying?
if you sink with the ship. You don't go out there and
Was
start
that what
like,
you're saying?
and then you jump off, and then as soon as it goes down, you transfer to another team. It's like you weren't really down for your team in the first place.
Well, he's
Dalo may not
Australian.
be playing great, yeah, but so was
He's
Viduka, and
Australian.
kind of he was Australian via Eastern Europe, but like he was loyal. You know what I mean? He's a legend. He's one of our legends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
Radebe
because he
didn't run
performed
away
well
and
for
be
you
like,
guys.
okay, whatever. Radebe stayed, right? He stayed with the squad in the championship. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so I mean that's what I'm saying. It's like there's a
What I
reason
did is
legends are
African.
legends.
He's African, but as long as the cash was coming in, right, African guys are not gonna
Yeah, I
run.
mean, I'm sure he didn't complain. I'm sure he didn't
Now
complain.
joking, he was a legend. He was a legend of the club. He was a legend of the
Yeah,
club. What I
he's
do,
one of the
when he
best.
was a
One of
club.
the best. Him and yeah. Anyway, we didn't get. What did people say about the top three? Did we ever get any comments on people's top threes or of each
No, I
team
haven't really
or
read the
like?
comments yet. No, I really haven't
Okay.
read the comments. But there's one thing I want to say to you about about this thing. I saw Pogba, right? It's something that I've always really thought about. I think it makes no sense because Leeds has got millions and millions of fans, right? Can
Mm,
you whatever you believe in, whether you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, or whatever religion, right? There is a spiritual component to us as human beings, right? Whether you believe it or not, right?
mm,
And so you've got tens of millions of people who are hating you, like justifiably so, right? Because you can have tens of millions of people hate you because you're good, right? That's not.
yeah.
I don't think that affects you too much. But tens of millions of people that hate you justifiably, that can bring a sort of like a sort of bad luck, bad mojo, and it never looks good, right? Because I look at Pogba, for instance. Pogba, when he left Manchester United, he literally just held up his balls and said "F you" to the world, right? Like "F you, man." Like he was offered £300,000 a week, and he laughed. He laughed like when he was, and then he released a documentary, blah blah blah. And look at him. He's been injured the entire time. He got a drug ban. Like life has just been going south. Like for that guy, like just has not his career just tanked after he left Manchester United. Why? I think because 600 million people now hate you, and they hate you justifiably, right? Well, my hate is a strong word, but you got 600 million people that don't like you. So why would you want to put that on yourself? So I just think that it's just smart when you leave clubs just to be like, things didn't go well. It probably
Yeah.
probably a lot of it was my fault. I hope I could. If I could go back, I wish I could do it differently. I apologize. God bless. I hope Leeds does well in the future. If Pogba left saying, guys, look, it didn't work out. I wanted it to work out. It didn't work out. Like what he's saying now.
Yeah.
Like now he's coming and saying, look, I hope, I'm sorry. I wanted to work out, blah, 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 blah. Now what he's saying, right?
But what you think the problem is, we
So,
forget these kids, these are
the young
kids who
people,
are
yeah.
praised.
Yeah.
The young people who, because
Yeah.
that's a mature way to do it, right? That's a mature
Yeah.
thing to do. Be like, hey guys,
Yeah.
let's let bygones be bygones. Same thing with Harry Q. Harry Q was young. He was Australian. He wanted to play the big thing, so he was just mouthing off because there's an ego attached to it. And
Yeah.
you said this before. The most important people, who do you play for? You play for the fans.
The fans, yeah.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter how much money you're making, you're playing for the fans.
It's about the
Once you
fans,
go
yeah.
offsides with the fans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no
point.
level of, and I think you're right. I think there's a certain mojo that happens that follows you your career. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Until you either come and pay homage, come back for a last leg, or really have that one-on-one with somebody and be like, you know what? I was wrong. I was a kid. I was foolish. You know what I mean? They're the best. Like you pay penance, because the reality is Pogba is not the only one. Harry
not.
Kewell is not the only.
He's not.
There's so many people who,
They're not.
and they're usually
Yeah.
young. They're usually young,
Yeah.
and they're kind of brazen, and they think that there's this idea that they'll play forever and the world is theirs. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The reality is that
Yeah.
the ones who know the most know it's a temporary. You have 10 to 20 years of this
Yeah.
experience, and when
Yeah.
it's gone, it's gone.
I saw on an American program, there's an NBA player, I'm forgetting what his name is. I think it's KCP. I think his name is KCP, right? And he was on Club Shay Shay, right?
Yeah.
You should watch. I think he's got some interesting, some very fascinating interviews, right? And I was watching his interview there, and he got very, very emotional, right? And he was saying about how, like, how he never had like a mentor, all the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? He never had a mentor, he never had this, he never had that, he never had this, he never had that. And I think that, I think you're absolutely right that does make a huge difference in your life, right? It really does make a huge difference in your life. But at some point, personal responsibility has to come into it, right? Because you done made it. You done made it. You are not. Look. Here's the thing, right? We've all been hurt by people in authority, by whatever circumstances, blah blah blah. But at what point are you gonna be on that ship forever, bro? Look, it's tough. It's unfair. It's not good. Yes, you were wronged. Yes, things went badly for you. Yes, bad childhood. Yes, no leadership. Yes, no mentor. Yes, no whatever. You are 100% correct. But there's a Dr. Phil used to say, do you want to be correct? Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Right? And I think there are some people who love to wallow in the "it's not my fault" box, right? And they're probably right about it, right? They abused as kids. They had a rough childhood. The fans were being too unrealistic. They're being offside. They're young. All these things, right? They all like Pogba. I think Pogba was unfairly. He was treated pretty unfairly, I think, at Manchester United. The fans had huge expectations on him, and every time he didn't do well, he was blamed. He was the one to blame, right? And even managers like Mourinho put the blame on him, solely on him, right? And so, yes, he had the right to be pissed off. Yes, he had the right to be aggrieved. Some of it, I think, was also racism. I think if Pogba was white, he would have been, none of that would have happened at all to him, right?
Yeah.
And maybe if Q was English, maybe it wouldn't have happened to him.
Yeah.
And, and so, but I think some people, you want to wallow in that it's not my fault box, right? And I think that what I've seen is the people that overcome are like, despite all of that.
So I think there's one thing I'll say to that. There was a comedian. I did this job when we were recording this comedian, and he said it was an Asian comedy show, and he's an actor. I forget his name. He acted in the latest Mortal Kombat that came out. But he was giving this story. He's Australian Asian, and he was talking about when he's growing up in Australia, his mom would would hit him. These Asian families, they're not like these white people's families. They'll hit you, right? The Africans, they'll give you a little smack on the bottom. So he said, I love my grandma. My grandma was my favorite person. So he said when his mom would hit him, he'd run to his grandmother and say, Mama, like go, like, mom hit me, mom hit me. And she'd be like, where? And he'd be like, yeah, here on my leg. So what would the grandmother do? She'd pinch him there. Ow. And he complained, pinch him there. Ow. Pinch him there. Ow. Until he realized, all right, if I stop crying, right, then I stop getting pinched. Right?
Yeah.
But the message that his grandmother told me was like, you know what, son? Some pain you just have to live with. Right? So here you are getting mentored, right? Because it's not your quintessential. And this is the thing this is why family, in my view, is very important, because you're not looking for a mentor that's an Ballon d'Or winning athlete. You're not looking for somebody that's played in Europe, played at the World Cup winners. Da, da, da. Your mentor could be your grandmother, teaching you at the age of 6 or 7. Some pain you just have to live with.
Yeah.
So if you learn that at 4 or 5 from one of the greatest mentors you can, who is your grandmother, usually, and it's grandmothers, talk about mentors, guys, grandmothers, like those family figures, the matriarchs. If you learn that lesson at 4 or 5, throw whatever you want at me. Manchester United fans, Leeds fans, throw whatever you want at me. I can take it, because some pain you just have to live with.
I have to take. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good saying. Also, I mean, like we went to a boarding, so I won't say the name because I'm about to say something negative, so I don't want to paint them in a bad light. But I remember once there's a guy, the guy called Tags. I'm just gonna say his name because he was a bit of a penis. That dude, right? He said, he was a short guy, so I think that short syndrome, and I'm pretty short, right? I'm not like, I think you're probably average height in America, right? You're probably, because you guys are tall in that country, but in Zimbabwe we're not that tall. So I'm like average in Zim, but in terms of like, in the world, I'm quite short, right? So, but he was shorter than I was, right? He was quite, and the funny thing, his best friend was huge, bruh. Yo, remember Des, bruh? He was massive, bruh. Like Lock, he was massive anyway. So it was the funniest thing. So he was a plebe, right? And then like in like second term, he was made a house prefect. So he gets made a house prefect at Rocco, we're walking down, and then he's like, Zumudu, come here. And I come up, he's like, task. I'm looking at him like, why? He's like, dude, I've just been made a prefect. I just wanted to give someone a task. So I think he was joking. But I go away, and then lo and behold, next week I'm on the school task list, bruh. Right? Just because he felt like it, and just because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so you're right, buddy. The stuff you have to swallow it. There's nothing I could do about it. There's no one I could go complain to. It just would have been so bad for me. So I just had to swallow it, bruv. And I had to go and do that task, bruv. I had to go and I can't remember what it was. Oh, we had to go and cut grass with like what do you call it? What's the English name for it?
I don't even know what they have here. It's basically what is the Grim Reaper? What does the Grim Reaper have?
A scythe.
A scythe. It's basically a scythe.
Yeah, for grass. The thing that you used to cut grass, like a blade for cutting grass with.
Yeah,
like a
manual. It's not as
hand.
fancy as a scythe. It's just like a golf club that's got a sharp edges. You just chop.
Yeah,
I don't even know what.
So yeah, so I had to do that thing, but with no gloves, bro.
I know.
And it was like in those woods, between the pine cones and stuff. It was not fun, bro. It was not fun, bro.
In fairness, I didn't have that often. But when I did, I was like, this is why I don't like doing this. It's a bit of a goody two shoes. But when I got a couple of tasks. Man, the Bemba stuff, man. Your hands would be.
Two, my entire life. Two. He was the one, right? He was one. And then the other one, I had another one. I can't remember what it was. But even that one, I went to go to the task. And then the prefect that was there, it was a football was taking it. He's like, Zumuto, you're here. Okay, cool. And then he shocked. And then he left. He was like, here's the list, just do the Rocco or whatever. And then I took the task. I was in A block. when I got that task. It was for not shaving. It was not for not shaving. Wow, so and I deserved it. I deserved it. But I got that task, right?
Yeah. The one thing about boarding school and army and whatever, it teaches you, as my son goes and cries in there, it teaches you some pain you just have to live with. And the earlier you learn that, the better it sets you up in life, because then you don't think, and here's the thing, I work in a business where people don't learn that at all or ever. They assume things should work out. It should just work out. It should be fair. It should be, you know what I mean? And I think if you're a young athlete, right, of professional footballers, the Lamine Yamals of the world, the Rio Ngomoas, you know what I mean? Like these young kids coming up. The sooner you can realize some pain you just have to live with.
Yeah, it's like
The
you just have to
the
let it
better,
go.
the more fortitude you have
Yeah.
in the long run.
Yeah, Lamine Yamal did a boo-boo. He did a boo-boo when
Yeah.
you're celebrating the thing. You know, free Palestine stuff. I mean, like, don't get involved in politics, bro.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, you know, whether you're right or wrong, don't get involved in politics, bro, as a sportsman.
Yeah.
I never
Unless
liked
you're
that, to
Rihanna.
be quite fair with you.
Unless you're Rihanna. Rihanna called it out. I'm like, wow, Rihanna? He's like, yeah, I don't care. But you're Riri.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I think I'm with Bill Burr. Bill Burr on that. You know, he makes a joke about it. Like, you know, I really don't want sportsmen involved. Look, there is their right to be involved. I'm not taking away their right. I'm not saying they should be fired if they are, whatever it is, right? But I just think sometimes I think that I don't think LeBron James is the right guy to talk about, you know, Chinese American geopolitics. I just don't think he's the guy to discuss it, right? Because you know, there's just so many things that he just leaves out, and you know. But anyway, look, it is what it is. People are free. So
I
just
think
the end of that,
more
Jamie.
about society. I mean, just last point. It is like if our society values station versus experience, you're always going to have this problem.
Yeah.
So if someone is popular in the socialite or whatever, if you value those people over the Songores, that's one of our teachers, the Fantisos of the world, people who know what they're talking about.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
You are always going to, you know, it's a tough way to have any sort of levity, you know. And if you're going to teach your kids anything, teach them to listen to the experts, people who've studied these things, who've done the research, not their pop idols, not their favorite sports athlete, not their high school crush on TV or whoever they think they'd love to have their girlfriend. Listen to the
not social media.
Not social media. Tell them to, if they're interested in something, tell them, send them to the professionals. And it's hard to find those professionals. In fairness, it's getting harder and harder because they're getting taken up, but they're there. They've put in
everything
the
is
time.
now an opinion piece. Everything has an opinion.
Like
so it's pure opinion.
Go to the experienced people who's dedicated their lives to these things, not just for a 5-second, you know, soundbite.
Who can show you evidence for the points that they're making, right?
Yes.
And I'm all for that. I like for me, one of the things that I've always not liked, right, is that I think that in Zim in particular, I think the difference between Zimbabwe and South Africa, and I really don't mean to offend anyone here, but in South Africa there's a huge celebrity culture that's there, right? And so they listen, like these guys that are in powerful positions, in terms of popular positions, you know, they are very, very popular, and their opinions are not Lebo, but other people, right? So anyway, we're talking about people, popular people, celebrities here. We're not talking about, you know, guys who write for Hans Zimmer. Hashtag a legend. Hashtag a legend. Hashtag a legend. I will be sued, bro. But funny, you're the one who will be sued, bro. Me, I pay him in Ziggy. Comes to Zimbabwe, pay him in Ziggy.
I don't speak English. I don't speak the Queen's English. What are you talking about?
The personal. Then the Zim, right? But not now, because now it's worse than South Africa, I think. But like maybe 10, 15 years ago, when I grew up, like the people that were revered, like people that we looked up to were teachers, policemen, doctors, nurses. Nobody cared. Like all of them. I'm telling you right now, my uncle owns a bar, right? A bars in Harare, you know, Boomerang, you know. And so I used to be sitting there and I see Oliver Mtuguzi being the biggest musician that's ever come out of Zimbabwe. Like he's massive, right? But he could sit there and have a cup of coffee in Harare, and my uncle's bar is literally opposite the reserve. It's like in Main Street Harare, like in Harare, right? And he could sit there and have a cup of coffee, and no one would bother him, right? No one would go, can I have an autograph? Can I? Oh my God, painting! There'd be nothing like that would happen, right? And that's how, you know, that's how Zimba used to be. You see the news. They went like sexy little blondes and stuff like that on TV. No, you get like normal, ordinary people, all shapes and sizes would be on television, right? And it was about, you know, how you sounded, how you articulated your words. It wasn't about, you know, being cool like Fari, right? It was just about like how, because Fari's got the food, it's a total package. He's also, you know, he also got the intelligence and the beauty and the brains.
Marching on.
Brawn and the brains, right? So I would love a society that's like that, like in America where you revere like California, the firefighters, the policemen, the the people that fight for you guys, the teachers, the professors, the everyday guys, the plumbers, the engineers, the carpenters, the bricklayers, people that work for a living, that really put food on the table, that are the mainstay of the economy, right? We're not worshiping the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Elon Musks and
Simba,
the
we're
Kanye
showing our
Wests
age.
and
We're showing our age right now. You're showing your age right now. You know that, right? By saying all these things, you sound like a Bali saying, "I miss the good old days," because it's true. I 100% agree with you, but I'm also aware that we literally sound like dinosaurs at this point.
dinosaurs. Hey, why are you looking like a dinosaur? The guys, I think he's still there, bro. I think he's still there in school, bro. That guy's still there, bro.
Dinosaur.
I know. He might have left. Hey,
Actually,
why you looking like a dinosaur? I like killed me, bro. I killed me.
I hear what you're saying, but the reality is, though, there are very few places in the world that happens, and I think now it's the thing of, because here's the thing: the generation below us, two generations below us, so the Lamine Yamals and the Gomors will never know those kinds of places. So it's how do you navigate the now? Because knowing what was and having Zim 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right, gives you an anchor. If your anchor is social media, is socials, like how long is it going to be before you figure out where to go? 100% it's the parents. 100%. And it's always been. But the difference I think now is that like our parents could send us to schools and know without a shadow of a doubt that we were going to be disciplined and their values would be instilled by the institution, right? That was it. It's like they had values. You send your kids to a school. What was important to you, your values would be instituted, would be reinforced by these schools. And that's what they sold you on. Now we're looking at kids, we're trying to get our kids into daycare, and it's similar things where we're looking for things that have similar values to us, And I think that's important. It's just, it's getting harder and harder because the influences outside, one, the educators aren't really interested in that because they're underpaid. I don't know, get into all the payment of teachers and nurses and doctors, but nurses and teachers underpaid, right? Which means they don't care about values anymore. They're trying to put food on the table to support their families. So these kids are learning from the people online, right? These influences. And the reality is they are not going away. It'll morph into something else. The question for me becomes,
we have to
how
change.
do we
have to change?
Well, no, here's the thing.
Because I think
inevitable.
What you value, I mean, there's a saying, right? There's a proverb that says,
you are what you value.
What you value is where you put your money. Where your money is where your heart is. And so I think that if we as a society come together and say, look, we're going to value teachers more, we're going to value education more, we're going to value firefighters more, we're going to value policemen more, we're going to value carpenters, plumbers, people that actually are the building blocks of our society, engineers, things that want to value them more than we are a guy who's going to pick up a mic and sing, right? Or a guy who's going to be on a video going, yeah, and then he gets 1 billion views on TikTok or whatever it is, and then he becomes a millionaire, right? Look, all power to that guy. I'm not hating on them. I'm literally trying to do the same thing, right?
I was gonna be like,
maybe. But look, I would be, I think that we are saying. So another thing about when you talk about parenting, right, is about pregnancy, right? And I think women are undervalued in our society, right? The fact that we're not paying women who are pregnant and paying them to stay like the first year maybe to development, we know that it's better for a kid to be with one or both parents in their first year. We know the outcomes are so much better, and yet as a society we know we don't sow into that situation where parents can actually stay at home and look after the kids, where a woman doesn't have to make a decision whether to sacrifice their career or have a family. If financially we invest in that you can, as a woman, have your baby and then also not sacrifice your career, like you're not thrown out to the wolves or whatever it is. If we can come up with a system that rewards parents for like their first year at home or whatever, or they can work remotely, something that encourages employers not to just fire pregnant women or just to marginalize them, right? Because it's probably ECB go to fire them, but it's they marginalize them. They don't get the proper projects. They get the kind of thing like So they're not women are not under pressure that they have to choose one or the other thing. Where dads have to choose one or the other thing, that they can actually be a father or a present mother, all these things. Whereas now we're not farming our kids to daycares and all sorts of things, right? We can actually look after our kids. And the kids are the most important thing in society is the children, because they are the future. They're the ones that are going to find a cure to cancer. They're the ones that are going to put us on Mars. They're the ones that are going to solve the distribution of food across the earth. Like we
Simba, your mic's gone. I think your mic's gone. No, it's off. It was a bit bubbly, but I think it'll come back in a second. I agree with you.
1-2. Yeah. So I think we're not investing in the things that matter, right?
Yeah.
We're not investing in the things that matter, which is, I think, the most important resource that we have as human beings is other human beings, right?
No,
like,
I agree.
Imagine if all the people in India, in Africa, and I'm not being, but that's where people are starving, right? India, Africa, imagine if all those people were well fed, well nourished, well educated, where this world would be, right? In terms of human capital. Anyway.
Yeah, but in the words of some other person's grandmother, some pain you just have to live with.
Yeah. Look,
because if you're always looking at the macro, it's bleak. The reality is the macro is bleak. So all you can do is focus on the micro. Focus on your little corner of the world.
Yeah.
Us talking here, maybe we can connect with somebody, and somebody says, "Hey, these guys are talking sense, man." And that could be the one change that we make, and it may not change the world, but it might change one person's world.
One person.
It might get someone's kid to sign up for a mentor. It might be one grandmother who's watching our show to be like, guys, some pain you have to live with. And that kid goes on to have a great career. She's gonna go on and win the Ballon d'Or for the women's game. I mean, it's like you never know.
Yeah. Or for them. So tonight, right? Let's wrap up. I think we can wrap up with the two very, 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 very important matches that are coming up tonight, right?
Yeah.
Huge matches, right? I think we'll talk about that. Then we can finish off with the OKC game. Chelsea versus Spurs tonight. Won't be just any night.
Tonight there will be no morning star.
I missed that. I love that song. So we've got Chelsea Spurs, man. Chelsea drew against Liverpool and they looked good against Liverpool, but it's Liverpool. So against Man City they put in they put a fair effort, but that game was so one-sided. It was just ridiculous. Man City looked like they're gonna win the game from start to finish.
But I mean,
do you think that they have a chance 20%? Against?
Yes, I think they actually have a genuine chance against Tottenham. And if I was the Spurs, I talked to my Spurs buddy. I'm like, it's your responsibility to at least get a draw, right? Like it's their responsibility
away from home, by the way.
Right. So it's their responsibility to get a draw. Do I think they can win outright? If De Zerbi gets them playing quality football again, like when they played against Leeds, they look good for large parts of that.
They did look good, for a large part,
right? Yeah. And in fairness, they nearly lost it at the end, right? Like, So I see this being a draw or potentially. My core of me tells me a draw. I could potentially see Chelsea winning it late, just to kind of end their season on some good notes, right? Because they're playing at home, right? Chelsea's playing home.
Chelsea's playing at home, yeah.
So, last game at home, I can see them showing up for the fans, getting them excited for next season.
So, if Spurs win, right, they're safe, right?
Yeah, if Spurs get a draw, they're safe because the goal difference is so much better than most times.
-9, -22.
Yeah. So basically,
this is a massive game, bro. You're gonna watch the sort of the City game. These are two big games, but
to be honest, probably the Chelsea Spurs game is.
Yeah, I'm
if you're interested in relegation or whatever, I think they're better matched.
It's more fascinating,
to be honest. Yeah, I think like
They're
in
closer
terms of where
together.
they
Yeah.
are and their quality of play, they're better matched. They're two London teams playing. You know, again, all Tottenham mean is a draw, right? That means that gives them
What
3 points
a
clear.
fascinating game, bro.
Yeah, I mean this is basically the season for and Chelsea's
Spurs.
also still trying to stay into the
They
the
got no
points where
chance.
they could possibly. Yeah, I know, but they're
They got no
playing for it,
chance.
right? They're gonna play for that, right? They
Yeah.
want to give Xavi something to look forward to. So I think that's the most
Look,
competitive game. Bournemouth and
they
City
could
is
be.
competitive.
Look, Chelsea, right? If they win, right, they are on 49 points right now. If they win, right, so if you add 6 points, if they win the last 2 games, you add 6 points to
Yeah,
49. That's 55. That's where Bournemouth are right now. So in other words,
right.
Sunderland, Brentford, Brighton, and Bournemouth would have to lose all of their games, right, in order for Chelsea to make it through. And the goal difference is not because Bournemouth is the difference is 4, Chelsea's is 6.
Yeah,
It's not looking that good.
that's what I'm saying. Like
However, right?
Chelsea has stuff to play for.
However, if Man City gets kicked out of the Champions League by UEFA, then
That's true.
number 7 could be up
That's
for
true.
grabs. Number
Yeah,
7
yeah,
could be up
yeah,
for grabs.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a
That's
possibility.
true. That's true.
But Brighton could automatically qualify. Bournemouth could automatically qualify, right, for the because they are only
Europa.
4 points behind Liverpool, right?
Yeah,
So if Liverpool lose their last game, right, and what are they playing? What are Liverpool playing the last game? If Liverpool lose their last game, right, which they are on course to do, which is against Brentford, but it's at home.
yeah,
But Brentford is a losable game. It's a losable, although Brentford haven't been playing one the last 2 or 3 games. I think Brentford have really
yeah.
mailed it in. Since the Fulham game, Fulham was
No, but they were
uninspiring, and
trying
then from
against
then
Crystal
downwards,
Palace because if they had won against Crystal Palace, it would have set them up because
yeah,
they're also vying
yeah,
for Europe. I mean, there are a lot of
but
teams that are in that Europa,
the
UEFA,
number 6 position,
Europa.
yeah, the
Yeah.
number
So
6
I mean,
position, yeah,
it's competitive, and that's the problem for Tottenham is that Chelsea
yeah.
has a sliver of
Just
hope
got something to
of
play for,
something to
yeah,
play for. Bournemouth, for Manchester City has something to play for, but basically,
yeah.
if Bournemouth show up, my guess is Bournemouth City could be a draw unless Doku does his
I'm
magic,
calling that. I'm calling that a draw as well. I think it's gonna be a draw. But
which then
here's the
gives
fascinating thing, right?
Arsenal the league.
The league. Yeah. I think I think that the most desperate team out of the 4 teams is obviously Tottenham.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Tottenham, followed by City, and then I think Bournemouth and Chelsea are probably equal, right?
Yeah.
But the fascinating thing I wanted to talk to you about was that if Bournemouth win their game, right, if they get 6 points,
Yeah.
right, and Liverpool's playing Brentford, and then Bournemouth's last game is against Nottingham Forest, right? They got Forest, right?
Yeah.
They got Forest, right? Um, if they win their last game, right, then they could usurp Liverpool and actually finish 6th,
Mm.
right?
That's what I'm
And
saying.
they
People have
knock out
a
Liverpool.
lot to play for
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
There's a lot of teams that
uh,
have stuff to play for. But
yeah,
I think Tottenham is probably
yeah,
the one that needs the most, right? Like
yeah,
Tottenham needs
yeah.
the biggest.
Tottenham needs the most. So yeah, so that's gonna be a fascinating game. Really, really fascinating game. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm Tottenham Chelsea. I'm gonna be looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
A good thing though, they're half an hour apart, right? The starting times are half an hour apart,
Yes.
which gives
Yes.
me. So I can start watching the Man City Bournemouth game.
I know that's starting
45
soon.
minutes apart actually.
Yeah.
You're starting at half 8 my time in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's starting in 30
30 minutes.
minutes,
Yeah.
right? So you got the Man City Bournemouth game. I think that'll be fascinating. I think that's
Yeah.
going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a draw. And then, but it's either going to be a draw or City victory. I think one of the two.
Yeah.
And then I
I
think
agree.
the Tottenham Chelsea game, I can't call it. I think they're going to be tough to call. That's going to be a fascinating game. Fascinating
To be
game.
honest, I think Chelsea could we'll know in the first 15 or 20 minutes how they're actually coming to play. Are they actually coming to play like they played against Man City or Leeds in the FA Cup semis? You know what I mean? Like, are they actually playing good, surprising football? Like, are they trying to impress the next gaffer to be like, hey, like, we got guys that can play here. João Pedro is not playing in the World Cup. He didn't make the World Cup squad. So,
He
does he
didn't
want
make
to
the World
prove
Cup squad.
himself and be like,
He didn't make the World Cup squad.
Neymar took his spot.
It's actually crazy.
Neymar, player pressure.
But it doesn't matter.
João Pedro's not going.
Right?
I think last I saw
How can
João
you-
Pedro's
how can
not
you- how can you
didn't make the
go?
squad.
What?
I know.
My goodness, bruh.
I know.
The Esteval make it.
Esteval was hurt, so he wasn't considered. Rodrigo isn't playing either. That's why there were places open. There were opportunities up at the top. But yeah, no. I think João Pedro didn't make it. So Neymar's coming to the US.
My God. Vinicius, Neymar, Rafinha, Endrick, Martinelli. Oh, Martinelli. Ryan. Oh my God. This is a criminal, bruh. Dude.
So that's what I'm saying. João Pedro's got a lot to play for today because he's going to be
Luis Enrique, Ryan at Bournemouth is better than João Pedro.
According to, he's a winger. So you have Ryan on the right. You have Martinelli on the left. You know, this is an amazing coach. But I think basically Neymar, I think there was pressure from the old boys to get Neymar.
Who's the number 9 then? Cunha is the number 9.
Cunha is probably number 9. And Neymar is kind of like he's not gonna start games.
He's not gonna start him, right?
But I think
so. You got Neymar up front, you got Cunha up front, and then you gonna have Rafinha on the right, and then we're gonna then maybe what? Because
like
Rafinha and Martinelli play in the same position, right?
Martinelli is more left-sided.
And then probably Ryan, right?
Rafinha is right-sided cutting.
Nah, that's unfair. João Pedro's had a better position than friggin'
100%. I agree.
Is that a better? Nah, that's not fair. And who's this guy from Zenit? Who's Luis Enrique?
Enrique was the kid from Real Madrid that was basically sat on the bench. So now he went to France. He's a young guy. He's supposed to be the next star.
Is it Zenit?
No, the Enrique
Zenit
kid from right.
He's 25.
Maybe I'm thinking about the. No. I'm thinking about the. I'm thinking of the guy who was at Real.
Think of Endrick. You think of Endrick. That's what you think of.
Yeah.
Endrick. Yeah. Went to Marseille. No. Was it not Marseille? What's it? Lyon. Right. Nah. That's criminal. That's criminal. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. That's
talk
criminal.
about someone who has something to play for.
That is criminal. That's criminal.
That's what I'm saying. So like,
because
this could
I'm
be...
looking at this side, right? You got Thiago, and then you've got and Cunha, right? Those are your 2 number 9s. But yes, Thiago scored more goals than João Pedro, but João Pedro looked much better, bruh. He looked better. I would pick João Pedro over Thiago. Thiago's had a great season, right?
Here's the thing: you'd pick Neymar over. You'd pick João Pedro over Neymar. Like if it's a choice, because Thiago has been scoring, so you can't not. He set some Premier League records.
What about Luis Enrique? What has he done?
I don't know Luis Enrique, but he's young, and Ancelotti likes. Clearly, he wants 25. Some young guys
25.
in there.
Zenit Petersburg.
Yeah. So I mean, right. Like I don't know, Ryan starting and like, he's probably not a starter, but he's probably there on the right wing.
He's a winger. He's a right winger.
He's a right winger. So
he's a Martinelli on the right left, winger,
which is the same as Rafinha. He's exactly the same as Rafinha, right?
3 assists and 5 goals at Zenit Petersburg, bro.
But here's the thing: Ancelotti, this is his first foray with the team for real. They don't really have a chance. It's sad to say, but like Brazil, I don't see them competing.
I think Brazil win the World Cup. That's who my money's on.
This World Cup?
Yeah, this World Cup, yeah.
Wow.
But,
we just talked about how
Fabinho,
João Pedro,
Santos. Wow.
Paquetá. Bro,
Santos didn't make it. Wow.
No.
This squad is cutthroat, bro. Casemiro, Bruno Gomes, Luis Paqueta, Fabinho. I would have Andre Santos over Fabinho. 100%, bro. Even Andre Santos at Aston Villa, bro.
Ancelotti, they left out Thiago Silva. I'm surprised they left out Thiago Silva, who is, 41. Finally, they decided he's too old.
He's too old now, bro. Marquinhos, Gabriel, Bremer, Danilo. Marquinhos isn't yet.
Yeah, Marquinhos may not have been. I think he was injured. Militao, is it Militao who's injured? One of them is injured.
Oh, Militao, sorry. Militao. Where's Marquinhos? Oh, Marquinhos is part of.
Marquinhos
and Gabriel.
And Gabriel in the center.
Gabriel.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. That's a bit.
For me, the midfield. I don't know who's in the midfield.
I'm a bit bummed about. It's
Neymar, his final World Cup, bro.
It's Casemiro, Bruno Gomes, right, and Luis Paqueta, Fabinho, and Danilo Santos. I don't know who Danilo Santos is. He's only guy, but I know Casemiro, Bruno Gomes. I know Luis Paqueta. I know Fabinho.
I think Guimarães,
but I would have had
Guimarães is good. You needed someone else in there.
Guimarães is good. Paqueta is also is okay.
Paqueta.
He's okay-ish, but he hasn't had a great time of late. Casemiro, it's gonna be not a very mobile midfield, right?
No.
None of these guys are quick.
I mean,
None of these guys are quick.
no, but I think
None of them.
they're good. Like if Paqueta is playing at his best, I think you have like
Yeah,
an attacking
but
midfielder there.
goodness,
Guimarães
he's
producing the
not.
ball. I mean, it's not Brazil's heyday is gone, but they have enough in there to be
this midfield.
competitive at most games.
That's the weakness. I think that's the weakness.
On paper, this is a team where you think they get to the quarterfinals, but will they win the whole thing? I don't think so.
I think
on
they could
paper.
win the whole thing.
On paper, they've had teams that were better and didn't do it.
Not on paper. I think that when I look at them, I mean, like, they've been playing very well, and didn't they qualify pretty well as well?
No, it was a bit of a struggle at the beginning. Like there was some contention, like Bolivia beat them or something. I mean, it was a bit. It's harder than it's been, But the reality is the world has changed. They haven't caught up. You know what I mean? These other countries have been developing. But yeah, João Pedro has nothing to play for but this game. So these next two games.
I'm bummed about João Pedro, bro. I'm bummed about João Pedro. I mean, look,
he was my captain for most of the season for my fantasy. And he produced.
Yo, bro. But Andre Santos as well. Andre Santos, the Chelsea midfielder, you would have 100% been there for me. Because I think you need some legs. Because I'm looking at that midfield. Fabinho, bro. Fabinho is like 36. Casemiro is like 36. I'm looking at that midfield, bro. They're just full of Madara, right?
Yeah, but I think the philosophy is you get defensive-minded guys.
I mean, I guess experience.
Right. I agree with you. I think that's going to burn them, and I think they don't have any playmakers in the middle.
Yeah,
Paqueta is supposed to be the playmaker. We'll see if he can,
really
deliver.
Yeah, I don't think he'll deliver. So, Bruno Fernandes recently tied the assist record at 20 assists, right? 20 assists. For me, I think this is arguably, and I think you will argue with me, but I think, as I said, arguably, I think it's arguably the greatest performance by a midfielder in Premier League history for this fact alone, right? If you look at his contemporaries, and if you look at the people that are around him, Ozil, De Bruyne, Fabregas, Henry, I mean, those are the guys that are in and around that 20 assists per season, right? Ozil, I think, at 17, Fabregas at 16 a couple of times, that are around that figure, right? Henry 20, De Bruyne 20. Right, and I think De Bruyne at 17 and 16 a couple of times as well. Same with Bruno Fernandes as well, right? All of them played with the exception maybe of Fabregas, but even Fabregas, I think to some extent, all of them played in offensive-minded teams, right? Where the team had the majority of possession. That's the first point, right? So the team had most of the time they were doing very little. They had more opportunities to create chances, right? De Bruyne and Thierry Henry. Let's stick to De Bruyne and Thierry Henry, and maybe Ozil because Ozil was right underneath, right? Ozil, De Bruyne and Thierry Henry. They played in highly offensive teams that had the majority of possession. Now, if you look at this season, the average possession of Manchester United, I think, is like 49 or 40 something, 49, 48% possession. So the most of the time we're defending, right? That's number one. Number two, all of those players played with a deeper lying midfielders who progressed the ball for them, right? So they received the ball majority of the time in the final third. Whereas for Manchester United, right, for half the season, right, he's been playing number 6, number 8, right? There's sort of a hybrid between the two under Ruben Amorim. I know we've forgotten about him because we're all like in character euphoria at the moment, but we're forgetting. That's my second point. That for half the season he was playing. No, sorry. My second point is this: that he has no one behind him that progresses the ball to him. So most of the time he has to go and fetch it himself, right? And then progress the ball from defense up into midfield, and then run past the midfielders and then receive the ball and pass it to the strikers, right? That's what he's been doing. That's my second point. My third point is that he played out of position for maybe 2/3 of the season. He was out of position under Ruben Amorim's squad, right? Whereas Henry was a striker, De Bruyne was a pure number 10, right? A pure number 10. My fourth reasoning is that De Bruyne has played with Haaland. He played with Sterling. He played with Gabriel Jesus. He played with great players. Henry, of course, played with Anelka, with great players. Great players. Bergkamp, guys that were finishing off his chances. Whereas in Bruno Fernandes, right, plays with I won't disgrace them by naming their names. Not great players. But last season he was with Hoyland, for instance. This season he was playing with Šeško, the other guys. So, and guys were missing his chances. That's my fourth reason why he's such a great season. My fifth reason is when you look at the chances created, he dwarfs his contemporaries this season. And then also Henry and De Bruyne, he again dwarfs them as well. Right? In those seasons, they had I think like 2 or 3 games where they created 5 or more chances in a game. Right? Bruno Fernandes had like 18 this season, 18 or 20 this season. I'm getting what the stat is. Right? 18 this season. Again, dwarfs his competitors. So for me, when you look at actual just production wise, position wise, and what he's had to put up with, and what team he's playing in, I don't think you can talk about any midfielder who's produced something similar like Bruno Fernandes has under the similar circumstances. That's why I think it's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, performance by a midfielder in the history of the Premier League. That's my presentation. Thank you very much.
I mean, as a Manchester United fan, I can see that you can look for it from that.
No. Just from your point of view.
Yeah, but let's call a spade a spade. You're a Manchester United fan. Let's be real.
Yeah, right? But I'll try to look at it as neutral.
Yeah, of course. But the reality is you're going to see it through the eyes of a Manchester United fan, right? Yeah. You're bringing stats. I'm not saying your stats are flawed. What I'm saying is you're always going to see it through the eyes of a.
Let's not put the Manchester United caveat on it. Let's
Simba, let us be real. This is something important to you because one of your team's players could be potentially one of the greatest midfielding performances of the season. It matters. We cannot pretend like that's not a factor in this. And I'm not saying that you're pulling up stats that are false or whatever to argue your point. What I'm saying is you are going to be passionate about this because he's a Manchester United player who's had one of the best seasons of a midfielder in his career and comparatively to other people. Right? And that is not false by any means. It's fact. I'm not going to compare him to the other players. What I'm going to say is that it is impressive to see what he can do in a deficit, right? Because all the point you're making is that his team was basically subpar, and so he's had to step up and cover bases, more bases than he's had to, more bases than Thierry Henry had to, more bases than like De Bruyne had to. And in so doing, you're giving him more clap because it's like, hey man, you've had to do more than these other guys to get this. And so you deserve recognition. And I think you can give him his flowers, as they say, Kunoko, right? He deserves his flowers for that season. Having to carry the weight of his entire club, right? Somewhat single-handedly to keep them relevant and to do all these things, right? No question about that. I think if I'm playing devil's advocate, Thierry Henry and the team won more titles en masse together. De Bruyne, right, with his team, won more titles en masse. So yes, Fernandes, right, like has had to step up where his team has failed. Then the question for me becomes, what is more important? Is De Bruyne? De Bruyne could be like, guys, we won as a team, and yes, I didn't have as many assists as Bruno. Yes, I didn't have as many chances made as Bruno, but I was in a team that didn't have to, and we won more titles in that time. Let's look at Henry. Henry can say the same thing, like, hey, yes, I didn't have as many assists as Bruno. I didn't have this, but I was on a winning team, and I'll go down in history as being part of winning teams, right? And yeah, my stats, but it's like I was on a team that supported me, that allowed me to do that. If I was in Bruno's scenario, I might have been at that level, if not better, right? So I think, yes, give Bruno his flowers now, right? Yeah, but also I think in the bigger context of things, if I'm Manchester United, I'm like, Bruno should not have another season like this because it shows how poor we are in supporting our best player.
Look, I think I get your point. I think the last part of your point and I think that works for De Bruyne rather than for Thierry Henry, because I don't think Thierry Henry could do what Bruno Fernandes does. I don't think he could do that because he was a striker. So positioning doesn't work out. But De Bruyne, you're absolutely correct that maybe De Bruyne in a lesser team, you could do something similar to what Bruno Fernandes done. But I refute that with Werder Bremen and Napoli. Right? Maybe his age, maybe he was too young at Werder Bremen and Chelsea, and he was too old now at Napoli, right? But those 3 clubs, which are lesser teams, he hasn't performed anywhere near the standard that he was at Manchester City, right? anywhere near the
He
standard
was in
level
his
he was at
prime. He
Manchester
was in his
City.
prime in Manchester City.
Yeah. The caveat is that
Right.
before
Like
he went
Bruno
to Manchester
Fernandes
City,
is in his prime now.
yeah.
Right.
But look, Bruno Fernandes, right, since he came to the Premiership, has been in the top tier of chances created, right, like top tier since day one, since coming to the Premiership, right. Like he creates more chances than anybody else in European football, right, at the top tier, right. But that's not really my argument. My argument really is in terms of like individual play, right? Because my argument is based on the fact that he has to do, or he has had to do more, right, to get those assists, right? Just take the one stack Yaguti De Bruyne was passing to Hoyland, who's more clinical, right? Now, of course, there is perhaps if De Bruyne was playing also with the non-clinical like Hoyland or like Sheshko or like Ahmad, who missed chances left, right, and center, he could have done the same thing. He doesn't have to, which is what your point is, right? He doesn't have to create so many chances because his first chance goes in, right? His second chance goes in, right? So he doesn't have to create 20 chances in a match because Man City don't miss those chances. They score the first couple that he creates, right? So I get that point. But the reality of the situation that's just conjecture on the other part because he hasn't done that, right?
Right.
So I think when I'm looking at objectively what has happened, that's mainly my point. Mainly my point is that objectively looking, just take the Manchester United out of it, right? Of course, I think your point is fair when we're talking about overall, but I think objectively speaking, I think that he's had a great season. And also, I think if you look at, I think he's going to win player of the Players Player Award as well. Because if you look at, I saw some of the videos, almost everyone is saying Bruno Fernandes had the best season, right? Everyone, all the players, Chelsea, Tottenham, whatever, everyone's saying he's had the best season. Now, Jamie Carragher, I don't know if you agree with Jamie Carragher's statement. Jamie Carragher is quoted saying that you can break the record by however many chances, because he said something similar, but not in the same spirit of what you're saying. He said that because Manchester United didn't win the league, it doesn't matter, or the fact that he hasn't won the league at Manchester United, right? Regardless of what stats he puts on the board, he's not a great player. He's not a great midfielder because they haven't won the league, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so let's see. That's what Jamie Carragher has quoted.
I think for me,
the caveat is that Jamie Carragher is a Liverpool fan as well. So let's put that on.
But I think it's like, what is it? So while you're talking about this, I was thinking of LeBron James, right? LeBron James goes many seasons with assist records, right? In Cleveland, right? Assists galore, right? And also scoring, right? But when we look at LeBron James, we're going to think about his titles, right? We're not going to think about, the seasons where he had to assist up the wazoo, whatever. We're going to think about the years that he dominated with the Heat, came back to Cleveland, won with Cleveland. Like, those are the years we're going to look at, right? He's had to carry the weight. He's still doing it now at 40, 41, right? But the reality is when we look at his career, right, we're going to say, man, he was a winning in cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. So if you're looking at it from, and here's the thing, this guy is a former player. He's not playing anymore. All you do is look at stats, right? All you do is look at stats. If you're looking at it from the point of view of like, what's his career going to look like on paper? Yes, you're going to see holes in there. But if you're living in the moment, watching things happen, like when I watch LeBron now, single-handedly, him and Smart, just getting past the Rockets, like fighting for their lives, I can be like, man, this guy at 41 has played probably some of the best basketball he's had to do because, there was no one else to do it. Yet he got to the next level and he got destroyed by OKC, right? So in many ways, it nullifies his performance that came before. But you can't take away from, like, when I was watching LeBron pushing at the end, like getting these last-minute shots, like single-handedly, like getting his Lakers across the line, him and Smart, those two pulling these, like willing them over the line. You have to say that this is an amazing season for LeBron. Now, are we going to look at LeBron's career and be like, man, that season where he has 41 and he single-handedly beat the Rockets, you know what I mean? Are we going to look at that career and be like, this is what makes his career? Or we're going to look at it and be like, in the context of things, is what came before, it's his titles. It's easy in hindsight to look at this thing and be like, it's the amount of rings you have on your finger, right? But if we're talking about the current level, people who've watched this season and have seen him perform and the players who played against him are going to give it the recognition it needs. Will it hold up over time through history? I don't know. To be honest, if they don't win a title in the next, I don't know how many years he has, maybe say 3 years he has left with Manchester United, there's always going to be that asterisk on his thing, and he's always going to be the shoulda, woulda, coulda. You know what I mean? So I can see Carrick's, not Carrick's, what's his name's point? I can see Carragher's point, right?
Yeah.
But if we're solely looking at the present day performance of what he's doing and having to lift his team, because he's doing the LeBron thing, right? They are not. You guys are third in the table, in no small part. Not even no small part. 70% of that is
it's all down to Bruno.
Right?
Yeah, it's all to
70.
Bruno.
It's all Bruno. So I think if you watching this in the era, in the moment that's happening, really gives. This is why when people compare, like, oh, you know, this player versus that player, and this season, that season, it's like you have to take it in context of when it's happening. In context of when it's happening, this is probably one of the best seasons he will have, assist-wise, in his career, right? And it's because he's had to step up. It's because he's had to lift the load. To Jamie's point, on paper, is this going to matter? And arguably, I'd say, without winning a title, and just the way the history works, if you haven't won titles or whatever, yes, they are great players, the Gerrards of the world, and these guys who go down.
Is Steven Gerrard, and I mean that's the obvious question, right? Is Steven Gerrard a great player?
He would definitely a Liverpool legend, and I think.
But you said yes very, very quickly. You said very. I'm not even Liverpool legend.
No.
Is Steven Gerrard a Premier League legend?
English Premier League legend, 100%. He's 100% English.
He's never won a single title. He never won any.
But here's
the thing.
Here's the thing. If you're saying Bruno Fernandes is the best midfielder to have played in the Premier League, right? And you're comparing his performance this season to the De Bruyne's, to
I'm not talking about
the assists, right? The assists. But we're talking about. But looking at this season, like, where does he stand?
I think what I'm saying, right? What I'm saying is I'm looking at what Jamie Carragher said. He said, doesn't matter what stats, doesn't matter what he does. If he doesn't win a title, he's not a great player. He's not a great Premier League player. Those were his words, right? So what I'm saying is that if we're looking at that is the standard of. So then let's start looking at, okay, look, are there any players that are great that have never won the title, right?
Yeah.
And the first name, because of course, is Jamie Carragher that was speaking about. We think of, what about Steven Gerrard?
Right.
What about Steven Gerrard? Is he a great player? Right? And then anyone in there would say, absolutely, he's a great player, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, he's a great player. And I would say, like, I've watched the Premier League from the beginning. Is Lucas Radebe a Premier League? Is he a great player in the Premier League? In Premier
League
legend.
History?
He's a great player. He's a great player. He's an absolute great player, right? JJ Okocha, a great player, right?
Yes.
Boom, automatically, you ask anyone. I would say Matt Letizia Southampton was a great player. I remember growing up watching football, right? Every single top 10 that you watched was a Letizia goal, was part of when you played for Southampton. And Liverpool wanted them. Manchester United wanted, all these great players wanted him. But what? He didn't want to. He was faithful to his club and he stayed there, right? I mean, the other players that you can bring, you can put in the great players. You can think of Paul Gascoigne, for instance. Paul Gascoigne never won a title. He was a great player. I could go on and on and on of great players.
I think the question becomes.
So I think he's the session is upset.
I think there are two biases there. One, right? He's because it's Manchester United. He's kind of a bit biased. But two, what they want is English players to be the best. Like, he's not an English player, which I think is a huge factor in the fray. It's like a great midfielder that was Portuguese, that wasn't English. You know, they start being like, no. Because reality is, yes, he was a great player. I think I don't agree with him. I don't agree with him fully. But what I will say is that to cement his place as more than just a Manchester United legend, because he will because Steven Gerrard is a Liverpool legend, but I don't know if he's fully in the camp of, like, he was a great player of his era, but without winning the title, I don't know if he's fully in the camp of the Henrys who transcend their clubs, right? Who are just not club legends, but they're like league legends, right?
You're saying Steven Gerrard was not a league legend? You,
No,
hey, a lot of
I
people
mean,
felt the
I
right thing
think
to you, bruv.
without a single doubt, he was a Liverpool legend. Without a single doubt, and I
No,
did this on
I'm
our
saying
list
a
last
Premiership,
time.
English Premier League.
But in terms of like a Premiership legend, I think not winning the title puts the Lampards, puts the Terrys above him. Who I think he was probably better than them, right? I think he was better than Frank Lampard, right? Steven Gerrard. I think he was better
I
than
don't know
Lampard,
about that.
but I think
I don't know about that.
Lampard is going to have, personally, this is just my personal opinion, but I
So then
think
you believe then you believe he's a Premier
but
League legend. Then.
no. I think he doesn't get the. I think Lampard gets more praise because he won the title, and
Steven
so
Gerrard gets more praise than Lampard. You don't think?
no, personally, I think Frank gets a lot of love, and I think this is what I'm saying. I think Gerrard is better, but I think because Frank won the title, right, he gets a lot more. Like him coming back with commentary, like there's this affinity with like Lampard because he won. But it's like to me, Gerrard was a better player, but he doesn't get the Premier League recognition that Lampard did because he didn't win a title. Because I think if you put the two of them
I
together
guess
playing there, I think Gerrard was better. I think all in all, I think Gerrard was better. I think he was playing on teams that weren't as strong as Chelsea at the time. But I think if you look at it, I can see that Lampard gets a lot more praise because
I
he won
can
the
see your
championship.
argument. Look,
You know what I'm saying?
look. I can honestly, if someone says to me like what you're saying to me that Gerrard is better than Lampard, I'm not really going to argue with you. I think just in my opinion, I think Lampard was better. In my opinion,
Yeah.
right? I just think Lampard was better. But look, so I think we're pretty much saying the same thing. I think though, here's the thing, right? I don't think you have to win a title to be a legendary player in the Premier League. I don't think so, right? Because I've just named like David Ginola as another name that comes. David Ginola, absolute friggin' legend, right? And he never won. He never won the Premier League, right? I think there are great players that have played for Newcastle, for Tottenham, for Middlesbrough, or Mark Viduka, another guy, right? You cannot write the story of the Premier League without talking about Mark Viduka, what he did for Leeds and the 4 goals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Jermaine Defoe, right?
But he's a team
Look,
legend,
not-
right? Team legends. Those are
Look,
team
what I'm saying is
Defoe,
when I look at the Premier League, can I write the story of the Premier League? Can I write that story? Can I tell that story without including Steven Gerrard? I can't, right?
No.
You have to mention him. You
Right.
have to mention
But
him.
the question becomes,
Can I write the question about the Premier without mentioning Matt Letizia? I have to mention him. I have to mention Paul Gascoigne. I have to mention JJ Okocha. I have to mention these guys, right? And so for me, that's a legendary status, right? I mean, that's just one of the criteria.
yeah, but
what I'm trying to say is, I think these players are legendary.
you can get in the book.
Maybe
but the question is, how
maybe
many
not
pages do you
maybe not
get?
Defoe.
You can get it in the book, but how many pages do you get? Henri's going to have 10 pages, 20 pages.
I'm not
right?
saying that.
Gerrard
I'm not
can
saying
have one
that.
or two. But that's what I'm saying. It's like legends aren't created equal. Tiger Woods versus Scheffler versus like Ernie Els. Like the thing is, they were great players and they did amazing things, but there's still a hierarchy within legends.
But
and
the
within that
standard
hierarchy, there's still
Henry
hierarchy.
up there, Wayne Rooney up there, Cristiano Ronaldo up there.
There's always going to be a hierarchy.
Right?
So you can get in the door,
for sure.
you can get a page, you can get a mention. The question is, do you get consistently mentioned as one of the greats? So to Jamie Carragher's point, no, I think if he doesn't win a title, he doesn't get mentioned as one of the greats in the league. Now, do I think he is one of the great players in the Premier League midfielder? Yes, I do. I just think it's like, when do you get more honorable mention? Where do you fit in the hierarchy?
I think that when you look at the greats of the, I'm not even talking about the greats. You said a great player, right? So it's not one of like the 1% up there. But I think when you look at the greatest players to play in the Premier League, in terms of in his position in the midfield, right? Let's say we're putting defensive midfielders because he's not a defensive midfielder, right? I think you have to be fair to Vieira and Makelele and Kante and them guys. They're not in the same. They're different sort of breed, right? I think you're looking at the De Bruynes, the Paul Scholes, the Frank Lampards. Those are the guys that you're looking at, right? The Madisons, the Ward Price, Eze, Odegaard. I mean, those are the players that you're looking at, right? Paul Gascoigne. I mean, those are the guys. Matt Letizia, Perez. I could go on. Those are that area of the field, right? I think when all is said and done, if you just objectively look at it, what his output as a look, trophies in football, right? Trophies. There's not, if you're on a shitty team, Farisai, there's nothing you can do to win. right? Look, if you have an awful defense, you could be the best player on earth. You could be the best player on earth. But if you're in an awful team, right, you don't have a good goalkeeper. You don't have good defenders. Everyone around you is not that dope. You create a million chances, your strikers don't finish them. Like I saw the game against Nottingham Forest. He created so many chances, but Buemo tap in, boom, kicks it over the post, right? There's nothing Bruno Fernandes can do about that. There's nothing. Whether that was Bruno Fernandes, whether it was Paul Scholes, whether Steven Gerrard created a chance, there's nothing. So football, unlike basketball, for instance, right? Where basketball you can have a LeBron who can carry the team, Ariega, right? But there's nothing you can say. I think when we look objectively in terms of output, is he the greatest? Is he Henry? Is he up there? No, I don't think so. Not yet, anyway, right? But I think he is not far from there. I think he's definitely comparable to another Kevin De Bruyne and them guys. Of course, Kevin De Bruyne won the titles.
I know, but here's the thing.
But I think he's up there.
If we bring back Steven Gerrard to end our point, because I think Porter is starting soon. If we look back at Steven Gerrard, Jamie Carragher can go and earnestly say that and I've said this, like Liverpool greats, like Steven Gerrard is up there, right? He's up there as one of the greats, right? Number 2, number 1, number 3, he's up there as one of the greats. And he didn't win a title, right? If you look at Manchester United, and you said that winning in Manchester United puts you in a different stratosphere, right? We're talking about it when we're talking about managers and the jobs, whatever. So when you say is even if you're comparing Bruno to De Bruyne's, to the Madisons, to these guys in the current era, you're always going to be comparing Bruno to Manchester United legends. And so, if we're looking at that point, when Carragher says he's not going to be a legend, that's because to him, his legends have it's a different level, right?
Not a great player, not legend, great player.
Yeah, okay, but here's the thing. If you're looking at the squad, right? Not even the squad, if you're looking at your franchise, your team, right? Where does Bruno land?
He's up there. He's up there. So the question I would ask myself is:
are we 5?
Who is the greatest
3?
In his position? Who is the greatest midfielder to play in his position?
But we're not talking about his position. We're talking about a great for your team, because that's the thing. Your team is stacked, Simba. Liverpool isn't stacked the way, and this I've said this before. Liverpool isn't stacked the way.
I talking about midfielders or what? I talking about players overall, or just midfielders.
Oh, great! Because he's saying if he doesn't win a title, he's great, right? But that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying he's a great player. I think he will be starting for all of the teams, all of the great Manchester United teams. He will start.
Yeah. I mean, he's a great player. But what I'm saying is he top 5 in the greatest
not only
players
would he
of
start
Manchester United?
In the history of Manchester United, he's top 5. No, he's not top 5. I think he's not top 5. No. But I think that's saying more about Manchester United than it is about him as a player.
100%, and that's why it's unfair to him.
You've got Beckham who won the Ballon d'Or. You've got Ronaldo who won the Ballon d'Or. Right? You know what I'm saying? You've got Cantona. You've got Giggs who played like 700 something games. So yeah, fine. The guys have won 13 league titles and they've been dominant while doing it. You know what I'm saying? But he will start for
this is
all
my
of those
argument for
teams.
like Redebe. This is my argument for Redebe. Like
He starts for all of those teams.
Redebe,
And by the way,
is a legend.
Redebe, I think why I say Redebe is a Premier League legend is that Redebe would make it into a lot of those great teams as well. Not just Leeds. I'm saying the Manchester United teams, the Arsenal teams, Lucas Redebe was comparable to those. Ledley King is another player. Ledley King, when he was fit, again, he would 100% make it into any of those Manchester United teams, Liverpool teams, Man City teams, right? So when you talk about, and they've never won a title. Ledley King never won a title, right?
Right, but here's the thing. Redebe doesn't have to compete to be a great for Leeds. He's easily top 3, right? And so it's easy for him to give him a great label. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So like to Jamie's point, like I think what he said, is he going to be a great? Yes, he's wrong. Like Bruno Fernandes will be a great player. He'll go down as one of the greatest players of his era. If Jamie Carragher said, is he going to be one of the greats for Manchester United? I was going to say he's easily going to be the great from this era right now. In terms of where he's going to stack into Manchester United. This is what you guys always talk about as Manchester United fans. You guys are a world team. You guys have won so much, 49 titles by Sir Ferguson. So I think we got to be compared for what De Bruyne doesn't really have to compete with greatness.
He's compete with no one.
you know,
he's the greatest Man City player ever. He's the greatest Man City player ever.
Henry was just great, right? Henry hands down, Henry was just great.
Yeah, but also he doesn't have much competition as well.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. It's like Bruno is always going to be under the cloud of, and this goes in line with what I was saying about a manager, in that you're always going to be under the cloud of the greats that came before you. And it's an unfair comparison because he'll be in the conversation.
I think your comparison is unfair, right? I think if you're talking about great players overall, fine, right? Bruno is not part of. But sort of like midfielders, specifically midfielders, right? And you could even narrow that down to his position, right? I would say that the only player in the history of Manchester United who's better than him is arguable, and that's arguable, by the way. It's actually a conversation. That's Paul Scholes, because Paul Scholes played in the exact same position that he did, right? So you have Scholes and him; those are the top two in the history of Manchester United, right? Yeah, top two, right? And no one else is in comparison those two in that position, right? Not Varane, not Keane, not Carrick. No, he's better than Michael Carrick.
Keane is knocking on the door. Keane is man.
Keane is an absolute legend, but again, he wasn't.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
Bruno is a whinger. We hate Bruno. People hate Bruno because he complains and he whinges. But take that away from the guy. De Bruyne was so cool because he was like, as a human, he was so cool on the pitch. He was ice cool, ice cold. So was Gerrard as well, right? Very competitive, a great individual, right? But Bruno is a whinger. He's always complaining. Complaining, right? And it's annoying. Believe me, it annoys me as a Manchester United fan. It does. Well, guys, we need to leave. We need to.
One more thing. As a New York Giants fan, we had Eli Manning. Right? Eli Manning was such a sulker. He was like the Bruno. He was the Bruno of like the NFL, right?
No.
He won two Super Bowls, and he was not a first ballot Hall of Famer. And a lot of people are like, hey, should he have won? Should he have not won? Anyway, we'll talk about that another point.
He's not a first ballot. Nah. I'm not gonna let you get it. Eli Manning, Bruno. No.
Yes.
Eli Manning had two. That's the only. How many times did he not make the playoffs, bro?
Here's the thing.
Come on now, man.
Eli Manning only missed one game for his entire season. That's because he was benched. Only missed one game.
Longevity goat. Fine. Longevity goat. Fine. He was an Iron Man of the fitness.
And if we're comparing him to Bruno, he actually
doesn't miss games as well.
Nothing. He won two Super Bowls. That's the thing. He won.
But those two Super Bowls, he did not carry those two Super Bowls. That's a lie, buddy.
He carried them all the way through the season.
Tremendous defense. The defense, bro. With one another, the guy was on TV. What's his name? The guy's on TV now. The guy who's on TV now. Who plays like Good Morning America, the black guy. What's his name? Strahan. Those guys are the ones that won that thing. It wasn't. Eli Manning, yes, was clutching moments and stuff.
This is why I'm comparing.
Come on, nah.
Because they're not the same. No. Can't win it without a Strahan. Where's Bruno Strahan?
Bruno is a better footballer, right, in terms of his sport than. No, I'm not gonna don't disrespect my player like that. Nah. Eli Manning was never going to be a first ball Hall of Famer, bro. Never, bro. But we need to talk about that. We need to talk about Eli Manning. It's an interesting topic, actually. But cheers, man. Cheers, bro.
African sports guy.